Hi, welcome back, guys. This is your friend, the DN WhatIf, with another fanfiction. This is the second part of What If Deku Was a Dancer. All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details, and go to the story link to say hi to the author. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now, let's get into the fanfic. Izuku sat up out of bed and stretched, picking up his phone and began playing music as he got dressed, doing small dance moves and singing along as he did. He plugged in his headphones and took some food before walking out the door. He was greeted with Kyoka and Katsuki, both standing there. "About time, you fucking nerd. You're gonna make us late," Katsuki yelled, even though they had plenty of time to get there. "Sorry, Kaken. Kyo. I got a little caught up listening to music again." He chuckled as he rubbed the back of his neck. "You always get distracted, sensei." Kyoka playfully rolled her eyes. They all talked about their weekends as they walked to school until Izuku got a slightly sad look on his face. "What's your issue, Zuku?" Izuku jumped a little and shook his head. "Sorry, I was just thinking about Ida. I saw the news on his brother." The two nodded in understanding. "I'm gonna see if I can help him. After all, I know how it feels, right?" The two had small smiles. He didn't usually talk about that stuff so happily. When they entered the classroom, a few people were there talking quietly. They all went to their seats, except for Izuku, who walked over to Ida. "Hey Ida, what's up?" The other teen had an angry look on his face, before going back to normal with a smile. "Good morning, Midoriya. I must thank you again for letting us spend the night at your home. It's a shame your parents weren't there though." Izuku had a small smile. "It's okay, Ida. They weren't there because they died when I was a little younger." It looked like Ida was going to apologize, but Izuku stopped him. "Don't apologize. I don't mind talking about it." Ida seemed to consider what he was going to say carefully. "How were you able to deal with it?" Izuku smiled again. "I was really angry and upset at first, but then I remembered that that wasn't what they wanted. So I live my life how I want to make them proud." He looked Ada in the eyes. "I didn't get revenge because the best revenge was proving people wrong, right?" Ida seemed shocked, but soon smiled and nodded his head. "Of course, Midoriya." Izuku smiled. "Mido, Ida," Yuriroka greeted as she walked over to the two along with Tsu, Todoroki, and Shinzu. "Hey guys, how's it going?" Soon they all sprung into conversation as more people came in. Everyone quiet down. People stopped talking as they got into their seats. "Now that the sports festival is over, and the week of training you now have too." Aizawa was interrupted as midnight busted in. "Time to pick hero names," Aizawa sighed. "Yes, time for you to pick your hero names. Now they may change in the future. But that doesn't mean you can pick something stupid." He got into his sleeping bag and laid down, listened to midnight. "Everyone take one and pass the rest back." They were all handed whiteboards and markers. "You'll write your name on there, and then come present it to the front." They all began writing down something or trying to come up with ideas. Izuku liked a lot of the names he saw, and he laughed at a few, mostly just Katsuki. "Really? Lord Explosion Muter?" Kyoka asked, while Izuku tried to stop laughing. "Shut it." He looked at his own board. When he was younger, he always wanted something like drop beat or rhythm. But that was also when his mother was there. Things were different, and so was he. He finally settled on one and stood up presenting it. "Oh Tilda, I love it. Does it have a meaning behind it?" Midnight asked, looking at his name, Jade Dragon. "Yeah, it's sorta to remember my mom and my students, so I don't forget what's always pushing my forward," he explained with a smile. "Aw, that's very sweet, Midoriya. I'm sure she would have loved it." He sat back down, receiving a few compliments as he went. A few more people went, and Izuku was a little shocked at Ida's hero name. He had hoped he would have chosen Ingenium for his brother. "Good, now that that's over," Aizawa showed the board with their names and numbers near them. "We'll be doing internships. Even if you didn't get any, you'll be offered some from people." Everyone looked at the board. Izuku felt a little saddened at his. He only had one. "That's such bullshit. Why don't you have more?" Kyoka asked, glaring at the board. "Don't worry about it, Kyo. It's nothing I didn't expect." They were all handed papers, and Izuku's eyes widened at the hero's name on his. "Oh wow." Katsuki and Kyoka leaned and looked at the paper. "Is that the number 5 ranked hero Maruko? Oh my god, I love her so much." Izuku was geeking out. While his inspiration may have been more underground heroes, and those with weaker quirks, he still looked at other heroes. And Maruko was one of his favorites. He had watched her fight before, and had even based a little of his own fighting style off of hers. "God, you're such a nerd," Katsuki joked. "Shut up," he whispered, still freaking out slightly. Kyoka was just as excited as he was though. They all began choosing who they wanted to go to for the internships before lunch. "So who did you guys choose?" Yuriroka asked. "I decided my father. He may be able to teach me how to control my fire side more. Izuku smiled and patted his back. I have decided on the hero manual, Ida declared. Izuku smiled and nodded his head. Really? Didn't expect that. Uraraka yelled a little surprised. I'm interning with Gunhead. They all went around the table talking about who they chose. Izuku, he turned to Todoroki. I saw you only got one. Who was it? Izuku's eyes lit up. I'm so excited. It was Maruko, the rabbit hero. She's so cool. I'm really excited. She can help me so much. He continued gushing about the hero, while the others listened and threw in their own opinions and ideas. After school, like normal, Izuku went to the dojo. Though this time the others decided to actually go home and rest. They still had another week till they would be going to their internships. He changed into his black crop top and white joggers before going to the front of the building since Haku had called him up. Midoriya, perfect timing. He waved, and was a little surprised to see a kid no older than 4. This is Midoriya. He's one of our best teachers here. Midoriya. This is Sasaki and Kauta. He looked closer at the kid who looked angry, like he didn't want to be there. Hi, I'm Midoriya Izuku, but a lot of my students call me Dragon Sensei. He shook hands with the woman before crouching down a little to the boy's height. That seemed to make him even angrier. Seeing as he tried to punch Izuku only for him to catch the boy's fist. Wow, you pack a punch, huh? The boy looked shocked for a moment but quickly went back to angry. Sorry about him. Izuku chuckled. It's no problem. What can I help with? Haku smiled. Well, Sasaki wants to sign Kauta here, up for lessons on fighting. I figured you're the best suited to teach him. Izuku nodded his head and turned to Kauta. Why don't I show you around? Kauta still seemed angry, but followed Izuku as he walked to the training side. Do you know what style you want to learn, Kauta? I don't want to be here. Izuku figured that would be the answer. A lot of parents had a tendency to try and make their kids learn to fight as an outlet. But it backfired a lot. So she wanted you to come here for an outlet, right? The boy seemed shocked, but nodded his head. Well, why are you so angry? He glared and looked to the ground. I hate heroes. He looked up quickly to make sure Izuku was listening. And he was. All they do is flaunt their quirk for money and fame. They don't actually care about saving people. Izuku sat down. Well, I'm training to be a hero. Kauta looked up shocked. But I don't have a quirk, so nothing to flaunt. Why do you think I do it? He seemed caught off guard at the question. See, Kasayu, you probably think you're better than everyone. I don't care why you do it. Izuku smiled and stood up. That's okay. Why don't we finish the tour? Izuku explained all the equipment and rooms before taking him back to Sasaki. Thank you so much, Haku. Midoriya? I think we'll enroll Kauta here. When would we be able to start? How about tomorrow? Our classes work differently. Just bring him after school gets out and Midoriya will be ready to teach him. Izuku smiled and nodded his head, shooting a smile to Kauta, who glared. The next week all the class was busy getting ready for internships and studying. Izuku had been trying to think of something new for his classes, how to try and reach Kauta, and how he should add or change something on his hero costume. Aizawa-sensei, can I go to the support room? Aizawa seemed a little shocked by the request. Fine, don't be late for your next class. Izuku smiled and went to the class with a little jump in his step. He knocked on the door before opening it. When he did, he heard people scream and ducked when a tool went flying at him. Mr. 1 Mil, you've finally come. He looked and saw Hatsume. She looked excited with a wrench in her hand. Hi, Hatsume. But yeah, I wanted to make some changes to my costume. She jumped around excitedly before grabbing his costume, retractable staff and his gloves that let out spikes on his hands. Fantastic. What do you got? He smiled and pulled out one of his notebooks and showed it to her. I've been training with weapons more thanks to Haku. She said I'm good with my staff, but suggested I try eskrima sticks since she thinks I'm better with them. So I was wondering if we could do that. Hatsume nodded and picked up the staff and inspected it before gasping. I got it. I can add something here so it can split into 2. Then something here to add that handed on the end to hold on to. I can make them electrical, she screamed excitedly. Izuku was shocked, but seemed just as happy. Really? That's awesome, Hatsume. He thought about his weapons more. Can I get rid of the smoke bombs and stuff too? I don't use them, and I don't think I'd be good with them. Hatsume nodded her head, already taking them out of the small pockets. That works perfectly. I can add something else in there to help. You should get a gun, she yelled, getting her teacher's attention. What? Izuku asked, shocked. He had never thought of that before. Think about it. It could give you a long range, so that way you don't need to get super close to some opponents. Power Loader walked up to them, realizing it was Izuku. She's right. If you want, I'll talk to Snipe and Aizawa about getting you started. Before you go for your internship, though we'll have to tell them about it. See if we can get you a license quickly so you can carry. Izuku was still a little shocked. Yumjer. I mean, it would be useful for fighting. And if my teachers are okay with it. Power Loader walked back over to his desk and began texting said teachers to tell them, while Hatsume started talking about the type of rounds it would load. We could add paint palettes. That way if you shoot someone it looks like they're dead. And add an electric thingy to it, and it'll knock them out. Oh, and rubber bullets. Not real bullets though, that's going too far. He chuckled as they both came up with more ideas and small detailed changes. By the end of it, he was going to have a gun, eskrima sticks, a staff, no metal claws in his gloves, full black gloves, and a completely black outfit with gold shiny accents. By the time his internship would come around, he would know the basics of using a gun and how to identify weak points on someone to shoot, so it would only injure and not be fatal. It was the weekend again, and Izuku was nervous. So far his lessons with guns had been going smoothly, and apparently he was almost on par with Snipe when it came to his aim and speed, so getting license was easy. Especially since he was quirkless, and the government took it as, oh no, I'm so helpless. Please give me a gun so I don't die. So now he just always had it on him. It was loaded with rubber bullets since he had to keep the other stuff Hatsume made at the school. The dojo was pretty empty minus the staff, which surprised Izuku since it was the weekend. But he had to guess people just didn't come. It happened sometimes. They didn't have the dance competitions every weekend, so it makes sense. Since it was empty, he walked over to the speaker and plugged in his phone. He looked for a song that he enjoyed and one that wasn't super intense, but was just fun. He liked to dance and listen to music when he was stressed since it calmed him down. Once the music started, though, he just messed around with it. Song and dance. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=WWGR7Q7RTKA. As the song began to fade, he felt himself smiling and had a clear head. You looked stupid. He chuckled a little at hearing Kauta. He turned to the child and crouched. Probably, but I had fun. He saw something in Kauta's eyes and smirked. You want to learn some dance? The kid blushed. What? Why would I want to learn something like that? It's stupid. Izuku laughed a little and stood up, looking for good beginner songs. I always thought I looked stupid when dancing, especially since kids bullied me. Kauta looked like he was going to say something, but Izuku stopped him. Then I remembered why I liked dancing. It wasn't because I did it for other people. I like it because it's me. It lets me express myself even when it's hard. He walked back to the middle of the room. So, wanna learn? I'm here to pick up Kauta, Sasaki said to Ash at the desk. The little one Midoriya's teaching, right? She nodded. He should be in the dance room within then, just around the corner. Sasaki was now confused. They had said he would be on the left to the dojo side. That can't be right. He's taking fighting classes. Ash smiled. Really? You should try dancing for him. He seems to really enjoy it. She nodded her head slowly as she walked to where Ash had said. She heard music booming from the room and quietly walked in. She gasped at what she saw. Izuku was laughing happily while Kauta looked focused. It looked like he was running him through steps. It's okay to relax, Kauta. If you mess up, it's fine. Just feel the beat. Kauta was untensed and seemed to move to the music a little smoother. Izuku cheered and clapped while jumping up and down. Yes, good job. You're a natural. Kauta smiled wider. Izuku looked over and saw her standing there. Hi, Sasaki. We were just finishing up. He called, going over to turn the music off. Kauta looked a little sad, but walked over to her. Auntie, can I dance? She smiled and nodded her head. Of course. Do you teach that too? Izuku nodded his head. Yup. If he wants, he can do both, actually. Both can help each other in their own ways. If he's interested, I'd love to teach him more. He got closer so only she could hear. He's happy. Let him show you what he learned later. He stepped back again. Here's my number. You can call or text anytime, and we can talk about his lessons. He crouched to Kauta. And don't be afraid to tell me about anything. I'll always listen. Kauta nodded his head. Izuku ruffled his hair. I know you're a UA student, and this next week, you'll be doing internships. Will there be a different teacher? Izuku actually hadn't thought of that. I'm not sure. I'll have to talk to them. If they want me the entire time, I'll make sure to tell people. And if Kauta's more comfortable as only having me as his teacher, then he wouldn't need to come. You wouldn't be charged either. Thank you, Midoriya. You've helped a lot. Izuku smiled. Of course. I love helping people. Besides, he side-eyed Kauta. We have a lot in common. 1 mil, Hatsume yelled, getting Izuku's attention. He was heading into class with his group when she stopped him. I have all the updates to your stuff. Follow me. He didn't get much of a say as he waved by while she dragged him away. Put this on, she shouted before shoving him into a changing room. He looked at the shirt and leggings first, both now being fully black with gold lining. Now that he was looking at it though, all of his stuff had been replaced with that. The fabric was thick, but still breathable to him. His medical mask was replaced with a full black metal one with gold accents, just like the rest of his outfit. He put everything on and stepped out. Hatsume then handed him a thigh holster and his final version of his gun, both getting the same treatment as the rest of his outfit. And finally she handed him his staff in the smaller form. Everything is exactly how you wanted it. There are extra rounds in your pockets, along with medical supplies. And try to speak through your mask. He quirked an eyebrow, but did it anyway. What did you— oh my god, he screamed. His own voice sounded distorted and broken apart, but still clear enough to understand him well. The mask's sides went on his ears and came to a point behind them, making it look like he had bunny ears almost. I know, right? It took so long, but it's worth it. Now take it off and get to class. They all stood at the train station saying quick goodbyes and good luck before they all had to leave for their internships. You all better behave. You're representing Yua while you're there. Aizawa warned them. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck. He was still nervous. He didn't get why Maruko wanted him when there were stronger and better people. He pushed that thought away as he saw Ida. Ida! The teen turned to him a little surprised. Don't hesitate to call me or text me, okay? We're friends after all, right? The boy smiled. But Izuku could tell it was fake. Of course, Midoriya. Izuku walked into the building and looked around nervously. He wasn't sure where to go. Can I help you? He jumped a little as the receptionist looked at him. Sorry. Yumin Midoriya Izuku from UAIM here to intern for Maruko. He explained, trying to calm himself down. Right. Her office is on the 4th floor, room 5. He thanked her before going to where she pointed. He took the elevator and tapped his fingers against his leg to an invisible beat. When the door opened, he walked out seeing no one around. He knocked on the door and jumped when someone yelled. Come in. He took a breath before opening it. Midoriya, you finally made it. Good, get dressed. She pushed him into the side room that turned out to be a bathroom. He finally broke out of his shock and changed into his outfit minus his mask and put his weapons in the right place. Gun in the holster with the safety on and his staff in a holster that sat on his lower back. He stepped out and was met with a glare. Listen, kid. I'm not here to try and be your friend. You're gonna do what I say so I can actually put some thought into that empty head of yours, so you don't die on your first day. He wasn't sure how to react, so he just nodded his head. Good, now follow me. We're gonna see what you can actually do. And no gun, not yet. He followed her down a few floors before they came to an open and empty gym area. She got in the middle, already looking ready to fight. Izuku took the gun out and set it on one of the benches before walking back in front of her. He wasn't sure when the fight would start, but he did something similar when teaching. She suddenly lunged forward, making him jump back. She kicked a leg out, making him dodge. Not before he grabbed her leg and dragged her forward and punched her in the stomach. She hunched slightly before grabbing onto his arm and trying to throw him up. He twisted out of the grip and used her back as a springboard before flipping once and landing in a fighting stance. She recovered quickly, turning to run at him. They both ran at each other. When she kicked out again, he slid under her legs before using one of his arms and tripping her. Using the opening, he pinned her to the ground and pushed one of her arms up, making her grunt. Good job, so you actually have a brain in there. He felt her shift slightly. But I never said when the sparring ends. He smirked and pressed the barrel of his gun between her shoulders. I know, that's why I took a guess. She froze in shock before turning her face a little and smirking at him. You figured out it ended when the other was put in a death situation. He smiled. Fine, you win. Now let me up. He laughed a little and stood up before putting his gun away. I figured since you made me put my gun out that it would have been different training. But when it turned into a spar, that confused me, since in a normal fight, I would probably have it on me. And then when we started fighting, you weren't saying anything. So you were treating it like an actual fight rather than a spar. And most fights with villains end with either a death or capture. And we didn't have cuffs or anything, so that left a death situation, or rather a threat. So when you were distracted, I grabbed it and hid it in my jacket. He explained, feeling proud of himself. So you're not stupid, and you actually know how to fight. Thank you, she glared. That wasn't a compliment. He smiled again. Maybe not to you. She smirked, so he could be cocky. We need to work on your confidence though. This entire time you didn't question anything I said, even when I insulted you. He shrunk back a little. He knew he had low confidence. It wasn't exactly a secret, but it never seemed like a bad thing. Do you ever have confidence? I've seen it while you fight. But that's determination and self-sacrifice. He rubbed the back of his neck. He didn't think he'd be telling her about his job yet. Well, my friends say I have a lot of confidence when I dance and teach. She quirked an eyebrow. You dance? He blushed and hid his face. And you teach? Where at? A place called the Dance Dojo. She hummed. Let's go. He jumped and turned to her, shocked. What? Well, I need to see what makes you confident or some shit. 'Cause something isn't working. So get your shit and let's go. He felt a little awkward walking with her. And she of course noticed. Okay, what is it? He looked at her confused. Something's bothering you or whatever. So what the fuck is it? She honestly really reminded him of Katsuki. I don't really know. I mean, you're really cool and amazing and a fantastic hero. But, she sighed. Never good at the emotions thing. As much as I love hearing how great I am, just tell me. Why me? She looked at him and made a gesture for him to continue. Why'd you choose me? There were a lot of great people at the festival that would have been a better choice than me. She was even more shocked. He had that low of confidence, even with how far he got in the competition. Shut it. You were the best choice. You obviously already have years of experience, enough to even the playing field against Endeavor's kid, who has a powerful quirk. Most people would have quit, but you didn't. You laughed at it and rushed in with a plan. I didn't want to deal with some arrogant kid who thought he was the shit when he couldn't hold a candle to someone seen as more powerful just cause they have a powerful quirk. She explained. Izuku smiled, though he felt himself crying. She panicked at that. Wait. Fuck. Why are you crying? He laughed at that. She was bad at this, wasn't she? I'm fine. That was just really nice. She calmed down and smiled before she ruffled his hair. Well, don't get used to it, brat. When they finally made it there, Izuku quickly changed into his usual black crop top and leggings. He gave her a tour and explained how the place worked, and who and what he exactly taught. She seemed pretty interested in everything he said, so that made him happier. A few of his students would pop in every now and again, since it technically wasn't time for their class yet. So when do you teach? She asked out of nowhere. Oh, well, I have a few one-on-ones that happen sometimes. But I only have one right now, and that's around 4. Then at 6 I have my dance class. I'm able to cancel though and get them a different teacher. She shook her head. No, I want to see what I'm working with exactly. Dust Bunny. Eraserhead, your student can get it. Sleeples. I'm sorry, what? Bird Brain. Please tell me you aren't catching a case. Dust Bunny. Fuck off, Hawks, and go play with Shadowbird. Dust Bunny. And I mean, he's a good fighter and teacher. He kicked my ass the first time we fought. And now I get how. Kids got moves. Dust Bunny. I'm stealing your kid. He's mine now. Sleeples. The fuck you are. Dust Bunny. Can't stop me, ya old caterpillar. The next day for his internship, Izuku was excited. Maruko had said they would be working on his hand-to-hand combat more. Sure, he could take people his age with strength quirks, but he wouldn't always be dealing with people his age. So the next morning, he changed into a tight black sleeveless crop top and a pair of baggy white cargo pants. He kept his hat, mask, and gloves off since it was just training. He walked back to the gym where he saw Maruko standing with a smirk. Ready to get your ass beat? He smirked back. Are you? Izuku stood back up and whipped his nose with the back of his hand, seeing blood. He smiled more before running at Maruko, who seemed prepared. She swung forward before Izuku slid under her legs. He turned quickly and jumped before wrapping his legs around her neck. She swung a hand up that he caught and pulled, making her fall. Before she hit the ground, though, he let go and flipped, landing on his feet. She stood back up, and this time she raced forward. He tried to aim for a sidekick, but she caught it and flipped him onto his stomach, pinning him while she laughed. I win again, Izuku groaned as he stood up. Though he was having fun. Okay, break time. Get some water and treat any wounds you got. He nodded his head and ran over to his bag. Grabbing a water, he took a few drinks before breathing. It had been a while since he fought someone so difficult. Sure, his friends were hard, but they all seemed to have a pattern while Maruko changed it up. He was re-wrapping his knuckles again. He kept bruising and splitting them, when someone flew through the window. Maruko, meet my intern. He jumped a little and looked to see Hawks standing there with a very exhausted-looking Tokoyami. Really? I'm kinda busy with my own bird brain, she yelled, hitting him upside the head. Izuku walked over to them with a smile. Hi, Tokoyami. The other teen jumped hearing him, but turned and nodded his head. Hello, Midoriya. I see the darkness has had its way with you. The two pros seemed confused, while Izuku just chuckled. Yeah, a little beaten up, but I'm learning. Hi. I didn't know Maruko was taking interns. Hawks greeted, getting Izuku's attention. Oh, I was surprised too. But I'm really glad she let me be here. Maruko rolled her eyes. Okay, break's over. Let's go again. Izuku nodded and tossed his water to the other side of the room. You two can stay and watch if you want. The two moved out of the way since Hawks wanted to watch. Maruko and Izuku stood silently for a single moment before they both charged at each other. Izuku grabbed one of her arms, trying to twist it behind her back, but she retaliated by punching him with her free hand. He slid across the room for a moment before standing up and running again. This time, instead of grabbing her arm, he kneed her in the stomach before using her shoulders and hopping over her and using her back as a springboard and doing a flip and landing on his feet. She ran at him while his back was turned, though it didn't do much as he jumped and flipped over her. He grabbed both her arms and dragged them back before he landed on her back and pinned her. Though it didn't last long as she broke out of it and pushed into the ground, pinning him. Good, you're actually improving, she helped him up. Go do a lap before coming back. He nodded his head before taking off. Maruko, we should have our interns fight. Takoyami looked scared at that. And why would we do that? She asked. Because it'll give them a chance to fight someone new. She thought about it for a second. Fine. Once he had finished the lap, he was panting a little. Though he was doing a breathing exercise, so he didn't pass out from lack of oxygen. Midoriya, he jumped a little and looked to Maruko. You and Hawk's intern are gonna spar, got it? Don't go easy. He smiled and nodded his head. Takoyami stood ready with Dark Shadow already out. Izuku was in a slightly rested fighting stance. Go, one of the pros shouted. As soon as it was yelled, Izuku was already running to attack. Dark Shadow lunged forward, but Izuku dodged it with a twist and got close enough to land a hit on Takoyami, forcing him back a little. Dark Shadow changed directions quickly and went for Izuku. He dodged again with a flip, though Dark Shadow didn't stop in time and accidentally hit Takoyami. Izuku took the opening and aimed a kick to Takoyami's side, sending him down and out. Oh my gosh, are you okay? Izuku asked, helping Takoyami up. I am all right, though that was more difficult than the first time. Izuku smiled. That meant he was getting better. Thanks. You've gotten good too. I was sure Dark Shadow was close to taking me out. Not long after that, the other two left. It was getting late in the day, so Izuku and Maruko would be heading over to the dojo soon. While we're there, make sure you do your exercises, cause once we get back to the agency we're sparring again. I want to fix some of your moves. Izuku nodded his head with a smile as they walked in. He didn't have any classes today other than Kauta, so he would be able to fit in the exercises, a Parker run, the silks, and maybe some new choreo before they left. He started with his exercise first, since it would make it, so he actually stretched before doing anything else. It was pretty much a basic routine. Sit-ups, push-ups, stretches, pull-ups, leg-ups, etc. He also used that time to think, since it would usually just be him and the music playing in his headphones. It's weird, he mumbled to himself. Ever since the sports festival, my hands, he flexed them a little. There's a weird dull ache in them, but I shouldn't be able to feel that, right? Maybe I should ask my doctor. He went back to humming the song under his breath as he finished up the last of his exercises. He looked at the time and saw he still had some time before Kauta was supposed to be there, so he could squeeze in the run really quick. He set up a few things for the run before going to the front. He checked his phone to make sure his playlist was still up. He put his headphones back in, then took off. He hoped over a few blocks before rolling, then jumping up and grabbing onto a pole. Pulling himself up, he swung a little before hooking his legs on the railing and sliding down. At the end, he jumped off before grabbing onto another rail. He swung over that and jumped off into a roll before running up a warped wall. At the top, he pulled himself and took a breath before jumping off. He landed and rolled before coming to a stop. He panted a little before he was called over by Ash. Kauta's here. He nodded and turned his music off before running over to the younger and his aunt. Hi, Kauta. Hi, Sasaki. He greeted, running up to the pair. Kauta reared his fist back and Izuku caught it with a smile. Good job. Your hits are getting stronger and more precise. The younger tried to hide his smile, but Izuku could see. Good evening, Midoriya. I'm glad you're still able to teach while on work experience. Do you mind me asking who you chose? Izuku nodded. Sure. She's over there right now. Sasaki turned and jumped, seeing Maruko there on her phone. Now, Kauta, you ready to try that move again? Kauta nodded as the two walked off over to some of the equipment. Once they had left the dojo, Maruko seemed a little serious. Okay, listen. You won't be able to come here tomorrow. Izuku quirked an eyebrow. Is everything okay? She sighed. Not exactly. They want me and Hasu tomorrow to see if I can find the hero killer. Izuku and Maruko walked around the city, out of costume, looking through alleys and places to hide. They were still trying to find Stain or figure out if he was even still in that city. Wouldn't it make more sense to look at night? Maruko looked at him a little confused. Well, all of his victims have been heroes, and it's always happened at night. It would make sense to look on other heroes' patrol routes and during night. That way, if he does attack one of them, then we could find them before anything happens. Maruko smirked and ruffled his hair. Not too bad of an idea, kid. Why don't we head to a hero agency here to find patrol routes? The two had walked back to where they were staying and changed into their hero gear, including Izuku's weapons, before going to the Hero Manual's agency. I think one of my friends is staying here. They walked in and went to the front desk. I need to talk to Manual, Maruko demanded. The secretary seemed shocked, but nodded her head, picking up the phone. It was silent before the receptionist hung up. Manual will be right down. Maruko grunted. Thank you, miss. Izuku spoke. being a little more polite than the hero. They waited a minute before there was an elevator ding and Manuel with Ida followed after. "Ah, Maruko, what do I owe the pleasure?" Manuel asked. Izuku sent a small wave to Ida, who only nodded. "We need the patrol routes of every hero in the city." The other hero seemed shocked by her request. "What? Why?" She looked to Izuku to explain. "Well, we're working on the Stain case. And if he's still here, we're going to look for him at night and place other heroes patrol. That way, if Stain has targeted any of them, then we could find and stop him before anyone else was hurt." Izuku explained, getting more confident at the end. Manuel seemed to understand, but Izuku was something in Ida's eyes he didn't like. It was turning night, meaning Maruko and Izuku would have to start the search soon. They were sitting on top of a building, while Maruko explained how they were going to do it. "Listen up, kid. We're going to travel around the city together. You find or see anything, tell me, though this calm." She handed it to him. He put it in, and it connected to his mask's mic, and was hidden well behind the metal around his ears. "If we get separated and something happens, send me your location and tell me the situation. I'll get there or other heroes there as soon as possible, got it?" He nodded his head. He quickly made sure his rods were fully charged, his gun was loaded, and he had the safety off. "You hear me, kid?" Maruko asked through the comm. "Loud and clear." "Good. Let's get moving." Everything had gone downhill. They were searching when the first Namu started attacking. Then more came. Soon the place was flooded with heroes. Izuku was helping a family out of a car when a Namu with wings landed in front of them. Izuku pushed the family behind him and pulled out his gun, shooting it a couple times. It went down pretty easy, making Izuku confused, but he ignored it in favor of helping the family. Once most of the civilians were out of the way, Izuku found Maruko again. "Midoriya, I need you to go look for the hero killer. This is the perfect time to strike." Izuku was a little nervous. "Are you sure?" She nodded, and that's all he needed before he took off. He had his gun in his hands and pointed to the ground. He was running through a maze of alleys looking for anything. Turning a corner, he finally saw it. Ida was on the ground with the hero killer standing over him, ready to give the final blow to the other's neck. Izuku slid slightly and landed on one knee. He aimed quickly before letting off 2 shots that pushed Stain back. He put his gun away quickly and pulled out his Escrima rods and connected them before swinging them at Stain. It hit, pushing him back even more. "Midoriya, what are you doing here?" Ida shouted from his spot on the ground. Izuku spun the staff before it rested on his waist. He pulled his gun out again and reloaded it. "I'm saving you." He shot 3 times, at least 2 hitting Stain. But the shocks didn't seem to affect him. "Bingo," Izuku whispered, pulling out his staff again, but separating it into 2. "I can't move my body." Izuku looked to him quickly, but made sure to keep an eye out for the hero killer. So cutting activates his quirk. Izuku was glad for the slightly thicker clothing then. "Midoriya, don't get involved. This isn't your fight." Izuku turned with darkened eyes. "What are you saying?" He turned back to Stain when he heard him speak. "Your friend came to save you. That's a good line, isn't it? Now what will you do?" Izuku flinched a little. He could feel bloodlust radiating off of him. Silently behind him, he opened his phone and sent his location before whispering into the comms. "Maruko, I found Stain. He's attacked a hero, and another student is here." He turned his outer mic off so none of the other heard him. "Shit. Keep him there as long as you can. I grant you and any other student their permission to use their quirk. Don't be afraid to fuck him up, kid." Izuku hummed before turning his mic back on. "I told you, didn't I? This has nothing to do with you." Izuku got into a low fighting stance with his arms in front of him. Meddling with other people when you don't need to is the essence of a hero. He charged forward with Stain doing the same. He slid under the killer's sword and between his legs, shocking the other 2. He quickly pivoted on his knee and swung his rods at the hero killer's side. The man blocked it before swinging with a small knife. Izuku didn't react in time. He grabbed onto the handle of the knife and jumped back, making Stain let go. He tore the knife out and stuffed it into his jacket. He was about to charge again when his body froze. Wah! He saw Stain licking the blood off his hand as he walked towards Ida. He growled, trying to fight back against the paralysis. He felt the same aching again in his shoulder from before. He felt his hands twitch slightly, trying to reach for his gun. A beam of fire was shot from the end of the alley, forcing Stain back from Ida. One after another. "There are a lot of people getting in my way today." Izuku looked and sighed in relief at seeing Todoroki standing there half on fire. "You're not really one to send something like that. You meant you were in trouble and called for help, right?" Todoroki asked, freezing the ground and lifting Izuku and the pro off the ground. "Don't worry, the pros will also be here soon." He lit his arm on fire, pushing Stain back more. The ice melted, letting the 2 slide down to where the other 2 were. "Someone's time will be up soon, huh?" This is just like what the information implies. Todoroki stood in front of the three. I won't let you kill these guys, hero killer. You have good friends in Genium. Stain yelled, while leaping and charging at Todoroki. The two continued fighting while the three were still stuck on the ground. Izuku could flex his hands now, though it was a little tough. He could still feel the ache in his shoulder though. Once he was finally able to move, he jumped forward. Stain had thrown 2 knives at Todoroki's left side at the same moment. Izuku lunged forward and grabbed one, while the other was embedded in his arm. In his other hand, he had switched out the pellets for the rubber bullets and began shooting to where Stain was, forcing him back again. Izuku took off again and grabbed the hero killer's arm before throwing him up against a wall. Izuku ran up the wall and kicked the killer to the ground before they both landed. Get back, Izuku. He jumped out of the way just in time for Todoroki to use his ice and push Stain back more. Izuku landed next to Todoroki. Follow my lead. Todoroki nodded as Izuku charged forward. He ran to a wall and up it slightly before turning in the air and aiming a kick to Stain, who dodged. Izuku twisted again and rolled, while Todoroki used his fire and ice to attack him again. Once he stopped, Izuku charged again with his rods. They fought for a second and Stain seemed to be slipping up more and more. Izuku flipped and switched to his gun again. Instead of going back though, Stain pushed forward. Before Izuku could dodge, he swung his sword down and hard. It broke Izuku's mask and ripped his clothes. There was a lot of blood. The force of the sword made Izuku slam against a wall. He grunted before he fell to the ground. His chest and face ached, more than the shoulder, but still somehow bearable. Izuku. A beam of fire was shot at the killer as he tried to get another hit on Izuku. Stain licked the blood, making him freeze again, while Todoroki created more ice. Izuku was shocked and worried. He had realized Stain's rhythm when it came to fighting. But now that he was losing, he was becoming desperate, and even more dangerous. Showdown! He screamed as Stain got close to cutting the other's arm off. Luckily, Ida had finally been able to move and broke the sword before kicking Stain away. Ida. He sighed in relief. You got out? The quirk isn't as great as I thought. Todoroki, Midoriya. The two looked to him. This has nothing to do with you two, and I apologize. Ida panted out. Please run. The hero killer charged again. Out of the question. Todoroki pushed Ida out of the way and used his fire. Doesn't look like he'll let us. Izuku watched them, still trying to move. Something changed. He's flustered. He's trying to kill Ida before the pros come, Izuku announced. The two nodded as Todoroki tried to keep him back. You're in the way. The hero killer threw a knife. Ida used his own arm to catch the blade. He threw another one and Ida did the same. Ida. Izuku felt himself able to move again. But he had to use the wall to stand. I can move. Izuku looked down, feeling his leg give out slightly. He hadn't even noticed when Stain cut his leg. Can I do it? Izuku saw Ida and Todoroki doing something. He stood up fully and took a few steps back. He ran up the wall and flung himself into the air with the help of a pipe. He twisted slightly and pulled his gun out. He was out of bullets anyway. He flipped it so he was holding the barrel. He hit the killer with the back end of the gun before turning and kicking him at the same time as Ida. Ida landed on his feet, while Izuku rolled and skidded for a second before slowly trying to get up. Todoroki ran up and made sure the hero killer was out. He's out. He looked over to Izuku, who still seemed to be having issues standing up. Izuku. He ran over to the other and helped him up. Hanks shouted. He stood on his own for a minute, but grunted. The aching was getting a little worse. But not terrible. Do any of you have rope? The 5 were now at the exit of the alley with Stain tied up and Izuku on Native's back. You really didn't have to, Izuku assured as the hero adjusted his grip. You're hurt, right? Plus it's the least I can do, since you saved me. Izuku blushed a little, but didn't say anything. They should be over here. They heard someone yell before seeing a large group of pro heroes. Hey, are you? Oh my god, is that Stain? One of them shouted, making the others realize that the killer was tied up. Is everyone okay? Maruko asked as she jogged up to them. Izuku climbed off the other hero, even though it wasn't a very good idea. Shadow's not too bad, but Ida and Native are bad, Izuku explained. Are you fucking stupid? You're covered in blood, Maruko pointed out. He looked down, seeing the extent of his injuries. Oh. Yeah, oh. The other heroes checked the others before someone shouted. Duck. Izuku didn't react fast enough and was picked up by a flying Namu. He felt its claws dig into his chest and back and groaned. He reached for his gun and reloaded it with the extra bullets about to shoot when Stain jumped and made the Namu freeze. He grabbed the knife from Izuku's jacket and cut the creature down before grabbing Izuku and falling to the ground. He set Izuku down before turning to the heroes. The bloodlust from before turning full force and making the heroes freeze. You are all fakes. It is my duty to cleanse this world. None of them could move, starting with you, Endeavor. The hero flinched. The only people allowed to take me down are All Might, and him. He pointed back to Izuku, who was slowly standing up on his own. Without the hero killer noticing, Izuku lifted his gun and aimed at Stain's back and pulled the trigger. There was a moment before he finally fell to the ground, making the heroes look to see Izuku still pointing the gun and panting. He lowered it before feeling his legs give out. Izuku. Todoroki raced over and caught him before he could hit the ground. It seems your injuries will in fact scar Midoriya. I'm sorry. The doctor apologized, even though Izuku wasn't really bothered by it. It's okay. But what about my hands and injuries suddenly aching? The doctor got a sorrowful look on his face. Yes, of course. You said things had started hurting, even though you shouldn't feel pain, correct? Izuku nodded. And it was your family's previous doctor that told you that? Izuku nodded again, though he was starting to feel anxious. Is there something wrong? The doctor sighed and flipped a page. Yes, Midoriya, you can feel pain. Izuku stared for a moment in shock. What? Your previous doctor lied to you, sadly. From the looks of it, you were considered an experiment. Izuku's eyes widened. He felt like he couldn't move. Can you explain it to me exactly how Roman 2 don't feel pain? The doctor nodded his head, though Izuku could still tell he felt sorry. When you went to the doctor to see if you had a quirk, he obviously ran tests on you. But he did something that sort of froze your system, made it so you couldn't feel pain. Over time it wore off. You could still feel pain, but your brain didn't register it exactly, so your system was still frozen. But again, over time, your system was sort of shocked back into working correctly, which is why you're starting to feel it. Izuku nodded his head slowly, still trying to process it all. But wouldn't it hurt a lot more? No, since you have been able to feel pain, you just never understood it. So your pain tolerance is higher than it should be for someone your age. Izuku nodded again. He guessed that made sense. But he also wasn't a doctor. But if you wish, there is a way for us to shock your entire system into working. Izuku quirked an eyebrow. Will there be side effects? The doctor had to think about it for a second. It won't be painful, and like I said, your pain tolerance is through the roof, so almost nothing will change. You'll simply just be able to feel temperature more and pain will actually register. But it won't hurt. Izuku thought about it for a minute. So how do you have to do? It's very simple, actually. We'll give you a shot that should sort out all the issues. You sadly aren't the first we've encountered with the same issue. Izuku nodded his head. Right? He was still in shock. A good portion of his life had been a lie. Do Yaudo, you know why? The doctor did it. The doctor shook his head. At first we might have thought it was something they were offering to the parents. But it became clear rather quickly that they did this for their own advantage. He nodded his head. He was glad his mother hadn't authorized this. The doctor led him to a different room and opened the cabinet, pulling out a bottle and grabbing a shot. Go ahead and sit down. The shot itself will hurt, but everything else will be fine. Izuku nodded and sat down, letting the doctor do his job. For the other patients, we were able to catch them early on and cancel it out before it left any lasting effects. You sadly are the only exception. They never mentioned you in their writings. What are the lasting effects? The doctor inserted the shot, making Izuku wince a little. Just what I said before. You have a higher pain tolerance than normal, so a lot of injuries you won't feel, unless they are extremely painful. And even then, they won't hurt to their full extent. I guess that's good? Izuku wasn't sure why he was looking for a silver lining. I suppose so. The doctor walked him back to where the three were staying for the moment. Thank you for helping me. The doctor nodded. I'm sorry we weren't able to help you sooner. The doctor left at that, leaving Izuku a little lost. He opened the door and was greeted with the chief of police, Maruko, Manuel, Ida, and Todoroki all standing there now staring at him. What's wrong? The chief turned. I assume you're Midoriya Izuku. We were explaining to these two why what they did was wrong. Izuku glared a little and was going to say something, but Todoroki beat him to it. And I told him if we hadn't stepped in, there would be more than an injured hero in the alley. Izuku couldn't agree more. Maybe, but we had more heroes than Maruko working on the case. This time, it was the said hero speaking up. I told you, if Midoriya hadn't had the idea in the first place, we wouldn't even be close. And I'll say it again. I gave these kids permission to fight until backup showed up. They just beat the guy before we got there, so finish your speech already. The chief seemed a little taken off guard. Right. While what you did wasn't good, since you were given permission, you also get credit and won't be facing any consequences. Should have started with that. Todoroki grunted out, though it made Izuku smile a little. Not long after the chief and Manuel left, though, Maruko stayed behind. Kid, Izuku turned to her, good job. But if I catch you pulling shit like that again, you're dead. He nodded, a little scared now. Good. I'll be stopping by the dojo more often to make sure you aren't slacking. Someone has to give you a challenge. Now Izuku was smirking. Of course. Bye, Maruko. She walked out the door, leaving the three alone. What did the doctor tell you? Todoroki asked Izuku. Izuku jumped a little. Well, the injuries I got will probably scar, but won't leave much damage other than that, and apparently I can feel pain. Which led him to explain the entire story to the two of them. Izuku, Todoroki wasn't sure what to say. Midoriya, I am sorry to hear that, but you're strong. I believe as your friend you can overcome this. Izuku smiled at the two. Thanks. What did the doctor tell you about your arm? It has damage to it, but it can be fixed. Izuku clapped a little. I don't think I'll fix it yet though. I believe I should have a reminder to become a better hero. Izuku cheered a little at that. That's great, Ida. Todoroki looked at his hand. How come? The two looked at him. Every time I'm involved someone's hands get hurt? Am I the hand crusher or something? The two burst out laughing at that. Oh my god, Shoudo. I didn't know you could joke like that, Izuku said through gasps of breath. I wasn't joking. The next day Izuku left the room to explain to the others what he learned. Most of them wanted to kill the doctor, and wanted to make sure he was okay since he needed to stay another night with Todoroki while Ada left. He was walking back to the hospital room when he looked at the TV. It was the chief of police explaining what happened, and that the three of them had taken down the hero killer, even showing some footage they had somehow gotten from the alleys. That you kid? Izuku jumped a little and turned to a man with his hood up. Huh? Oh, yeah, I guess it is. He rubbed the back of his neck a little awkwardly. Congrats. The guy even said you're a true hero. Izuku didn't get to say anything as the guy just walked away. Huh, that was weird. He tried to push it to the back of his mind, but something kept telling him that the guy was someone he needed to remember. He finally made it back to the room and saw Ada had already left. He sat down on the bed before letting his body fall with a huff. Izuku, he turned and smiled at Todoroki. Do you think I should get another piercing? Todoroki just stared at him. I've been thinking of getting another one, and I'm thinking maybe tongue or lip. Todoroki blushed a little, making Izuku worried. Are you okay? Your face is really red. I'm fine, Izuku laughed a little, but go with tongue, less dangerous. Izuku hummed. Really? Okay, now help me look for some music. I want to have some new choreography for when I get back to work. Izuku opened his phone and handed the other earbud over to Todoroki and started playing a few songs. Every now and again Izuku would hum while tapping his fingers. What about this one? Todoroki suggested. Izuku opened his eyes and smirked. Oh, I see, Shoudo. Todoroki blushed again, making Izuku laugh. But you're right, this one's good. They had finally been let out of the hospital, and after checking in with everyone Izuku of course went to the dojo. He didn't have any classes or anything, except Kauta. Midoriya. As soon as he walked in, he was tackled by said child, who seemed overjoyed to see him. Hi Kauta. Hope you didn't give you sub too much work, he joked, ruffling the boy's hair. The boy punched him in the leg. Shut up. Izuku softened a little and crouched down. He knew what it felt like to lose parents, then almost lose someone who acted kind. I'm okay, Kauta, see? I just have more cool scars. He pointed to the scar on his cheek that jumped down to his chest before stopping at his waistline. It was jagged and ugly to Izuku. Kauta looked at it in shock. Besides, scars mean I survived, right? The younger's eyes watered again before hugging Izuku tightly. Oh, don't cry, I'm okay. He tried to comfort the other, but Kauta just punched him in the stomach this time. I wasn't worried. I just didn't want to be stuck with an amateur. Izuku rolled his eyes. Whatever you say, Kauta. Now let's work on that choreo I gave you last time. It was getting late and most people had left, except Izuku. After everything didn't feel right, but he knew what always felt right. He plugged his phone in and hit shuffle. Once the music started, he tapped his foot to the beat before smiling and starting to move. Song and dance. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=PHQRVTV7CRK. At the end, he did a little jump and spin before running into someone who caught him. Oop, Hitoshi? He looked and saw the collective back squad, and the Izakuru as they named themselves. What are you guys doing here? He stood back up fully. We came to check up on your ass. Katsuki's eyes drifted to the long scar for a second. Heard you were getting another piercing too. Izuku fake gasped. You told them? I trusted you? He pretended to faint, making Shinsu catch him again with an eye roll. Okay, drama queen sensei, Kyoka said, making Izuku fake gasp again. Why are you here so late anyway? No one's even here. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck. I sorta wanted to relieve some stress, you know? After everything just felt like the song fit. He explained. That makes sense. Momo added. Fine, come on. Katsuki grabbed Izuku's arm, making him confused. Oh, you know you want to teach us this shit, so get to it. Izuku's eyes lit up as everyone seemed to fall into place. The night ended with them all tired out and having another sleep over at Izuku's place. Eraserhead. Aizawa looked up to Vlad King, who was glaring at him. What do you want? He went back to looking at the papers in front of him. I'm aware your class took a week after the sports festival to train at a dojo. Aizawa still wasn't looking at it. And I wish to know what dojo. If you want an even playing field, then my class should train there as well. Aizawa set the papers down and looked at Vlad King. If you want to know, ask Netsu. He'll give you permission. He really didn't care what Vlad King wanted, or what he meant by even playing field, since they both knew heroics weren't fair. Fine. I'll also be asking for the same teacher. Whatever. With that, Vlad King left to talk to Netsu. Present Mike rolled in his chair next to Aizawa. Show sweetie. What? He was getting irritated with how many people were bothering him. Wasn't Midoriya your guy's teacher? Aizawa stopped and slammed his head against the desk with a long groan. It's good to see you all back from your rather eventful internships. He glared at the three obvious ones. The heroes you interned under also sent full reports about how well you did. I suggest you read them over yourselves. Some of the class looked nervous now, but Aizawa continued. As you all know, semester finals are coming up. Aizawa felt bad for Izuku now. Which means for the next week all classes are replaced with training time and study hours. You don't have to do any of these at the school, but it's suggested. Izuku raised his hand and Aizawa sighed. Yes, Midoriya, it's okay if you spend the week at the dojo. But if you fall behind, you're expelled. Izuku nodded happily. Aizawa-sensei, Ida raised his hand. When will this time start? Then the bell rang. That would be now. Izuku was excited for the week ahead. He got to train and work more with his students. He already knew his friends would drop by once they finished studying. And he already had a schedule in mind for his students and himself. After all, he wasn't the only one with exams. While the dance dojo may have been cheap, they still had tests. People would take them to move on to either new techniques or different dance styles. He changed into a black crop tank top, red joggers, and tied a red and black plaid around his waist. He put his fingerless gloves on since he wanted to work on his punches and kicks more. Looking good, Midoriya. But what are you doing here? Haku asked when he walked out of the changing room. Oh, well, exams are coming up, so we have a whole week free to train and study. So why not train and study here? She nodded her head in understanding. Fine, but make sure to actually study. She waved a little as she walked to the front desk since Ash said she had a call. He went over to where some punching bags were and set one up. Before he started, he put his headphones in and hit shuffle. Izuku was finally taking a break after an hour of non-stop punching and kicking to drink some water and look over his notes. He knew he had everything pretty down pat. Not as down as Katsuki, Momo, or Ida maybe, but he was doing good either way. He should be right over here, he heard Haku say, but didn't look up. Hey Midoriya, come over here. He read the last sentence before standing up. Yeah Haku, what's? He stopped and looked when he heard gasps and was shocked to see Class 1B and Vlad King up. This was going to be a long week. Izuku stood there in shock. The other class seeming just as shocked to see him there. You're going to be teaching them fighting to help prepare them for their semester finals. You think you're up to it? Haku asked. Izuku shook his head before laughing a little. No problem. I'll just stay a little later for practice. Haku nodded her head and walked away. Hi. The other class didn't say anything, so he directed his attention to Vlad King. So you guys are here to learn fighting, right? Do you know what your students already know or what level they're at? Vlad King glared. I know they're strong enough to beat you. Izuku laughed a little awkwardly and linked his arms behind his back. Well, that's not a range, but we can work with it. I'll show you guys around first so you can get a feel for the place. As he walked around and showed them things while explaining what they really did, he could tell a lot of the class didn't really like him all that much. Okay, for the first thing, everyone pair up. We'll start with some light sparring. Why should we listen to you? Izuku looked at the person and saw it was Testu. Testu, right? Some of the class looked a little shocked that he knew the other's name. Well, I can show you my skills if you want. If there's a volunteer? No one said anything. You can use your quirks too, don't worry. It was another moment before Testu pushed to the front. Izuku smiled as they both got into fighting positions. He knew he couldn't use the same tricks on them as Wana since they weren't exactly his friends, so he would need to get creative. Tetsu charged first and aimed a punch at Izuku's face. He dodged before grabbing onto the other's wrist and twisting. The angle forced the other to turn slightly so his back was at Izuku. He kicked the back of his knees, making him fall before pinning him. I actually learned that from Maruko, he let the other up. Next time if someone grabs your wrist, he grabbed the other's wrist and began guiding him. Yank down. It'll knock them off balance and give you an opening. trying kicking them in their stomach, then smashing their face against your knee. He saw a small sparkle in the other's eyes and assumed he had somehow gotten his respect. This time, it was a waist that raised his hand, even smiling. "Can I try?" Izuku smiled and nodded. The other ran up and got into a similar position as Izuku. So he was a visual learner. The two stood across unmoving till Izuku took off. He noticed a slight imbalance on Oase's left foot, so he would want to aim there. He ducked under a punch and swept his leg out, knocking Oase down. "That was really good actually, but you weren't balanced evenly." He helped the other up and showed him the pose again. "Try shifting your left foot a little. Then go for a more uppercut style. It'll shock most people." The other nodded before going back to the group. "And how exactly do you know those will work for them?" "You don't know my class," Vlad King stated angrily. Izuku quirked an eyebrow, but ignored it at the moment. "Well, I've used some of those moves before. And with Tetsu when he fought Kirishima. Those two have similar styles and focus more on punching. And with Oase, he's a visual learner and seems good at copying styles. So if you give a little advice here and there, he'll start to notice the little things and fix them on his own." That just seemed to make Vlad King angrier. But before he could yell or anything, someone stopped them. Dragon Sensei." Izuku turned and saw Hiro standing there. "Is this a bad time?" Izuku stepped back a little from Vlad King and smiled. "Not at all. Is everything okay? I was wondering if you could run me through the finals choreo one more time." Hiro seemed a little embarrassed to ask. "Sure thing." He turned back to the others. "Vlad King, can you please have them run any drills you have them do at school to loosen up a little?" The teacher just huffed, but nodded anyway. "Thank you. I'll be back in a minute." Izuku and Hiro walked to the other side of the dojo. Most of the students did the drills while Monoma, Kendo, Tetsu, and Pony all stood around. "I think we should follow him," Monoma said, already walking towards the other side. "What? Monoma, get back here." Kendo caught up and pulled his collar back. "We aren't doing that. It's his and his students' privacy." "So? He's Class A. If he's doing something, we need information on the enemy." Tetsu rolled his eyes. "I don't know, bro. Seems like he'll just tell us if we ask. Don't gotta make it difficult." Monoma just sighed. "If you don't want to come with, that's fine. Me and Pony will just do it." "Oh no, you don't. You aren't dragging Pony into this. We'll do the drills while you go." "No, see." Kendo walked away with a sigh while the others followed. Monoma rolled his eyes and made his way towards the other side of the area. He could already hear the music and hid behind the corner to watch them. "Okay, Hiro, let's run through it once and go from there, okay?" Hiro nodded and got into the starting position as the actual music started song and dance. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=1f-os84ibi. Monoma had to admit, they were both pretty good. Not that he would say that out loud. They even seemed to have a little fun with it and acted out random scenes in the middle of it. The music faded out, and they were both smiling and laughing, at least until Izuku seemed a little serious. "Hiro, why did you actually come here?" Monoma's eyes widened and so did Hiro's. "You have the choreo down to a T, but you seem nervous, so what's going on?" Hiro looked down a little and kicked at the ground. "My parents don't think I can do it. They want to come to my final and watch me dance. And I want to prove to them I can do it." "But," Izuku smiled sadly and placed his hand on Hiro's shoulder. "But you're nervous, they'll be right." Hiro nodded. "Well, look in mirror." They both faced the large mirror. "I see someone who's putting their all into dancing, and it's paying off. And you're standing next to him." Hiro laughed and shoved Izuku. "But seriously, trust me, you're gonna be great. And they'll see that, and if they don't, I'll talk to them, okay?" Hiro nodded. "Thank you, Sensei." Hiro hugged him. "I should probably go so you can teach that class. Thank you so much." Hiro waved before running to grab their bag. Monoma moved so the students didn't see him. But Izuku did. "Monoma? What are you doing over here?" Monoma jumped at the voice before coughing into his hand. Well, we finished. And I figured the All Grade 1A student would want to know." Izuku laughed a little. "Well, thanks to All Grade 1B student for telling me." He walked past Monoma, who looked shocked, but snapped out of it and followed after him. "Sorry, what did you call me?" Izuku turned to him confused. "I called you the All Grade 1B student. Sorry, I won't do it again." Monoma stared at him for a second. "Absolutely not, you can only call me that now." Izuku laughed and shook his head a little. "Okay, well, let's get back to your class." "Sorry about that. One of my students needed some help." "Are you guys up for some sparring?" Izuku asked. Some of the students seemed skittish, but Monoma spoke up. "Kendo, we're partners." He grabbed her hand and took her over to one of the mats, and soon the others were following. Izuku smiled and walked around the groups, watching them and adding a few things every now and again. After a while, Izuku called for a break. "Okay, that's good. Water and snacks." The group all sat down while Izuku walked over to Ash to look at the footage. Okay, nope. What's going on, Monoma? Oase asked. Monoma just closed his eyes and crossed his arms. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Kendo smacked him. He has a point. You're never nice to anyone in 1A, Monoma sighed. Fine, maybe, because he's nice and complimented me. He smirked at them. Are you serious? That's all it takes, Tetsu shouted. Shut up, you trash can. Monoma tackled Tetsu as they began play fight. What are you two doing? They all turned to see Izuku there looking like he was trying not to laugh. They all looked to each other, not sure how to answer him, though Monoma seemed to take charge. We're sparring, like before. Izuku just stared at them for a second before laughing a little. Okay then, have fun. He started walking away before Pony stopped him. Sorry if I say this wrong, but where are you off to? Izuku turned to her. Oh, what's your first language? English. Izuku nodded. Is English easier to understand? Pony looked shocked, but started jumping up and down. You speak English? Awesome. This is so cool, Izuku smiled. Of course. I'm going to the aerial silks. Apparently they need to be switched. Pony looked confused for a second. What's aerial silks? Here I can show you. Takage raised her hand. Sorry, but what are you saying? Izuku and Pony jumped. Oh, sorry. I'm going to the aerial silks to switch them out since they need to be washed. Izuku explained. What's aerial silks? Tetsu asked. Izuku smiled and waved his hand a little. I can show you guys. It'll only be a second. Follow me. They all followed him as he made it to the silks. These are the silks. I use them to help with flexibility, and it's kind of fun to do. I just gotta climb up there, unhook them, then get back down. He wrapped an arm around one of them before climbing up them till he was at the ceiling. Wait, how is he gonna get back down? Oase asked, looking up at him. He has a rope. Kendo pointed out, seeing it tied around his waist. Izuku looped one end of the rope to where the silks were hooked, and then unhooked the silks, letting them fall. He wrapped an arm around the rope and slid down it. There, he brushed off his hands and picked up the silks. Where do you wash them? Kendo asked. Oh, Haku usually just washes them at her house since it's easier and cheaper. He dropped them at the desk and waved at Ash. Oh yeah, do you know if anyone is allergic to anything? I was thinking of ordering pizza for lunch. Monoma was shocked. He didn't know anyone that would normally do that. No, I think pepperoni and cheese should be fine. And a veggie for Sasaki. She's vegetarian. Izuku nodded and pulled out his phone. Okay, great. It should be here when we finish. About 10 or so should be good. If we have any left, people can just take it or something. But we didn't bring money, Takage pointed out. Izuku looked at her confused before he seemed to realize what she meant. Oh, why would you guys pay for it? I offered. It won't be that expensive. Izuku let them get back to the class while he finished up a few things. Okay, no, I see why Monoma's nice to him now. Oase said, sitting down on the floor. Exactly. He's actually nice, and not some self-centered class 1A person. Izuku was excited. Once he seemed to get along with Monoma, everyone else warmed up to him. He was glad that they seemed to even take interest in what he talked about. He walked back into the room and saw them talking in groups. Hey Midoriya. He looked over to see Takage getting his attention. Where'd you get the scars? Kendo stood up and smacked her. Takage, you can't just ask someone that. Izuku chuckled a little. It's okay. But I got them from the Usgen stain is all. He shrugged his shoulders. But, now that break's over. Why don't you guys run through the obstacle course? Some of them playfully groaned, but went over to it anyway. He set up the correct directions in it, and put it on medium mode before they started. While Izuku waited for them to finish up with the obstacle course, he checked his phone, and saw a few texts from his group chat. Backusley. All I'm saying is that these stupid idiots are so fucked. They're lucky your girlfriend is helping them. I am the base. First of all, she's not my girlfriend. And isn't your boyfriend asking you for help? Backusley. If you want to die, we can arrange that, cause it seems like that's what you're asking for. Dirty Dancer. I leave for half the day. What the actual fuck? I am the base. Oh hey sensei, we're talking about studying for the tests. Dirty Dancer. Well, I can tell. Are you guys gonna want to do the usual study method? We can invite the others. Backusley. The idiots would be dead in 2 seconds flat. Can guarantee that shit. Dirty Dancer. Even better. They can get exercise. I am the base. Sensei, you're going to murder them. Dirty Dancer. Backusley. I am the base. Fear. Izuku was sitting on the bench again, going over some of his books, while some of 1B continued to train or walk around the place. He had looked through all the information that would be on the test, and was pretty confident. He knew Kauta would be there soon, and some of his class might be there too. Sensei. Izuku looked up and saw Kauta running at him. He stood up and smirked, getting into a light defensive position that was lower to the ground. Kauta ran forward and punched him in the stomach. Izuku pretended to fall to the ground in pain. I win. Izuku chuckled from his position on the ground. Oh no, Kauta's killed me. I can't teach him anymore. Kauta glared and kicked him in the side. No, get up. You still gotta teach me. He laughed a little and stood up, patting Kauta's hat. Of course, Kauta. Did you practice? Kauta nodded proudly. Yep. Izuku smiled and nodded. Great. Let's do some stretches, then you show me, and then we try the rock wall today, okay? Kauta nodded as they walked to the other side of the dojo. Izuku always ran through the stuff with him. He knew it could feel embarrassing, especially with more people here than normal. When stretches were done, he started the music and did the short dance with him too. He pointed out a few things that he needed to fix for next time. Once they finished though, Izuku was running him through the next part when they heard yelling. Oi, what the fuck are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, you class of trash. Izuku stopped and recognized Katsuki and Monoma right away. I'll be back, Kauta. He ran to the other side and saw Kyoka, Todoroki, Shinsu, Ida, Uraraka, Tsu, Kaminari, Zero, Mina, Momo, and Kirishima holding back Katsuki. Look, they can barely hold back their angry Pomeranian. That's it. Kirishima activated his quirk and started yanking Katsuki back. Whoa, Bakubro, chill. Monoma heal, Kendo and Kirishima commanded, pulling them both back. Izuku sighed and walked over to them silently. Can you guys not fight here? Unless it's to train, then go for it. The group turned to him while Kirishima and Kendo looked at him like he was crazy. Fuck no, I'm not training with this shit stain. Same goes for the angry Pomeranian over here. The fuck did you call me? The group tried not to laugh at the insults, but Izuku quickly collected himself. Okay, back it up. He pushed the two away from each other. A little. Monoma, you go over with the leftover 1B. Cake and you go over and start working with them, while I finish work with Kauta, okay? The two grumbled, but went where Izuku told them to. He walked back over to the other side where Kauta seemed to be practicing a little. Okay, Kauta, let's get moving. Show me what you got. It wasn't long after Kauta left, when Izuku had joined the group. Who was that? Seemed a little young to be training here, Kiro. Tsu pointed out as Izuku joined them in the circle with his notes and books. That was Kauta. He's been going here for a couple weeks. But he's around our age when me and Kaken started training here. He shrugged his shoulders a little. That's why you're so cool, Mido. Uraraka complimented, while throwing a fist in the air. Thanks. But you guys already knew that the first time you were here? Uraraka facepalmed. I have terrible memory. Izuku laughed a little before Todoroki and Shinsu got his attention. Bakugo mentioned something about studying together? Shinsu asked, while Todoroki nodded along. Oh right, he clapped his hands together. We usually answer the book's questions, and if we get one wrong we have to go through the obstacle course, do laps, pull-ups, push-ups, or something else. Depends what we want to do. He turned to Katsuki, who was smacking Kirishima with paper. Kaken, do you have the key? The blonde turned. It's in the fucking shitty chat pictures. Izuku nodded and pulled out his phone. Okay, if you get something wrong you do 10 pull-ups or push-ups, 1 lap or go through the course. If you have any other ideas, then we put them in this doc we have. Izuku showed them. We want to join. This sounds fun. Tsu, Uraraka, Takoyami, Shoji, and Ojiro walked over, sitting with them. Oh, let's do it Jeopardy style then. Whoever raises their hand first answers it. If they get it wrong it goes to the next person, and so on, Izuku suggested. I would not mind studying in that form, Takoyami said while sitting down. Most of the others were either with Katsuki or Momo. Sounds awesome. Give me a chance to train more if I mess up, Ojiro pointed out. At the end of the day, the group was exhausted, and their brains had melted from all the information. But they were at least a little more confident in their test scores. Izuku was happy. He had worked with Class B well, and even made friends with most of them. He and the others had been training, and they all felt ready for whatever the teachers had to throw at them. And he had been making great progress with Kauta. Only issue now was what the exams were going to be, and how they would work. Have them fight us will be the biggest challenge yet. The teachers all looked around the room a little shocked. It was something they hadn't done before yet. It is a good idea. The class is different from others. Nedzu finalized the idea with that statement. How will we decide who they fight? Snipe asked, a little curious. Based on their skills, we'll partner some up to go against certain people and have others go against others alone. Change the simulations as well. Aizawa had thought about this already. He saw All Might raise his hand before speaking. I believe we should team up young Midoriya with young Bakugo or young Todoroki. Possibly with Aizawa. Aizawa quirked an eyebrow and looked at him. Why? If they teamed him up with Bakugo it could be overpowered. The two worked together too well. Even him and Todoroki could be intense. With young Midoriya's disadvantage, Aizawa's eyes widened. Even some of the others looked confused and shocked. It would be better to partner him up with a stronger classmate. What did you just say? All Might opened his mouth, but Aizawa didn't let him say anything. If you think one of my students is at such a big disadvantage, then I wouldn't have them in the class. Midoriya earned his spot in my class. Nezu coughed a little, getting their attention. I believe I have an idea. Izuku was packing up and talking with the others when Aizawa walked into the room. Midoriya, come with me, we need to talk. Izuku felt his anxiety spike as Aizawa spoke, though he didn't let it show. Of course, Aizawa-sensei, he turned to the others. I'll be right back, see ya at the dojo. He grabbed his bag and walked to where Aizawa led him. It was a room with 2 couches and a table in the middle. Aizawa nodded for him to sit down. He set his bag down and started messing with his hands a little. Is everything okay, Aizawa-sensei? The teacher sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Midoriya, when did you meet All Might? Izuku jumped a little and was about to say something before Aizawa cut him off. And no, before school, I already know All Might's secret. Izuku's eyes widened before he looked at the ground. Sadly, one of his hands moved and started messing with the dragon on his ear. It was after school one day. I should probably start from the beginning. What's wrong, Deku? Did you actually think you could do something? One of his classmates shoved him against the wall, making him fall to the ground. The same student slammed a foot against his shoulder. Just give up already. You can't do anything. Izuku glared at the ground and wanted to attack the other student, but knew what would happen if he did. Yeah, Deku, why don't you just jump off the roof already? No one would miss you. The 3 students laughed as one of them hauled Izuku to his feet. Come on, fight back already, Izuku growled and looked the other in his eyes. You want me to fight back? Fine. He twisted the other's arm before punching him so hard he hit the wall. The other 2 looked in shock before one grabbed onto Izuku and held him while the other punched him over and over again before Izuku escaped the hold and knocked them both out. He was left panting with a bruised lip, bloody nose, and messed up knuckles. He looked at them before panicking and running into the bathroom, and started cleaning himself up. Looking in the mirror, he glared before punching the glass, cutting his hand even more. He locked the bathroom door before falling to the ground and sobbing. Oi, Zuku, you in there? He jumped and whipped his eyes before coughing a little. Why, yeah, sorry Kaken. I'll meet you at the dojo, okay? It was silent for a moment before Katsuki sighed. Fine, see ya later, nerd. Izuku waited till he heard the other walk away. Once he was sure he was gone, he unlocked the door and ran out of the school. After a while, he finally calmed down, though his hand was still bleeding. As he walked, he grabbed out his first aid kit. He could already hear Karen telling him the extent of the damage. He finished wrapping his hand as he walked under the underpass. Come on, Izuku, don't let them get to you. He messed with his hair a little before he smiled. I can do this, just a little more time. He paused for a second when he saw the cover on the sewer start to rattle. What the hell? Suddenly something jumped out of the sewer and began laughing. You're the perfect meat suit. It lunged at Izuku, who yelped and dodged out of the way. He jumped over it and rolled to the other side. Don't run. You're making this difficult. Izuku rolled again before standing up and analyzing the creature. Seems like it's liquid, except. He pulled out a small stick from his bag before whipping it, letting it extend to its full length. Glad I borrowed this from the dojo. He used it to stab the creature in the eye, making it scream and try to run. Oh no, you don't. Izuku stood there shocked as All Might punched it. After it was destroyed, All Might turned to him and smiled. Sorry to get you involved, young man. Izuku just nodded. Sure, All Might wasn't his favorite, but he was still the #1 hero. All Might, can I ask you a question? All Might turned to him and hummed. Of course. Let's move somewhere more private. All Might picked him up before launching into the air. When they landed on a roof, Izuku turned to him. All Might, do you think someone without a quirk can be a hero? The #1 seemed shocked, but was silent as he spoke. I know that it's hard and I would need to work hard, but could I do it? All Might looked at him before he started coughing uncontrollably. Izuku gasped and tried to help him before a large puff of smoke appeared and a smaller man took All Might's place. After that, he explained everything, then said no. I couldn't become a hero without a quirk. Then he left me on a rooftop. Aizawa sat there in shock, not sure what to say. Izuku laughed sadly as he whipped his eyes. Why, you probably agree, right? Aizawa stood up quickly before crouching in front of a scared-looking Izuku. Midoriya, you have potential. You've proven yourself time and time again that you have what it takes. You can be a hero without a quirk. Izuku sat there looking wide-eyed before pulling Aizawa into a hug and crying into his shoulder. Thank you, Aizawa-sensei. Aizawa stomped down towards the staff room once all the students had left. He threw the door open and pointed at All Might. You! The hero looked scared as Aizawa glared at him. You told a child that they couldn't be a hero, then left him on the fucking roof. Are you brain dead? All Might stood up with his hands up. And now Aizawa, please calm down. Aizawa all but growled. I won't calm down. That kid has proven time and time again that he's worth it, and stronger than anything you could be. He turned to Nezu, who was simply watching. Midori is fighting All Might. Izuku finally made it to the dojo panting, since he ran there from school. He quickly changed into a black hoodie crop top with black leggings and his usual gloves and hat. Sorry I'm late. Izuku put his bag down and ran over to where some of his students were. Geez, sensei. Was worried you weren't coming when we saw the other two. Izuku bowed a little. I'm really sorry. My teacher kept me after to ask few questions. He connected his phone to the speaker while pulling up the music. We already did our stretches, and we're ready to start practice. Izuku smiled and ran in front of the mirrors with the class following. Okay, let's do this. Song and dance. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=NNXGVGR8SCM. The others watched him work with the class. Kyoka and Katsuki glared at the scene. What's wrong? Kiro asked, looking between the two. Nerds hiding something. Kyoka looked to Katsuki a little worriedly. Do you think it's like? Katsuki shook his head and turned back around. If it is, I'm kicking his ass for it. The group looked confused as the two talked. What happened last time? Todoroki finally asked, tired of sitting in silence. Sensei showed up one day with bruises and blood on his face. And then his right hand was covered in blood, even had some glass in it. Was he okay? That sounds terrible, Momo asked. Fucker was fine after a good fight, was just frustrated. Katsuki explained, leaning back onto the floor. Kirishima scooted over and smiled at him. How'd you know he was angry? Uraraka asked, a little curious. He walked over and told Katsuki to fight him with his quirk. Kaminari raised his hand before asking a question. But doesn't he do that all the time? Katsuki rolled his eyes and sat up. Not like that. When we fucking fought, he was being sloppy and a dumbass. Even tried to fucking break my wrist at one point. Izuku walked over with his hands on his hips. What's up? He asked, smiling at them, though they didn't miss the slight redness in his eyes. Nothing. What dad keep you back for? Shinsu asked, leaning back against Izuku's leg a little. Oh, he just had a few questions. He clapped his hand together and smiled. You guys excited for exams? Kaminari, Sero, and Mina all groaned. God no, I'm gonna fail, Kaminari shouted. I don't think so. We can do some more studying if you want. The three jumped away and hid behind a reading Ida. No, you're a demon to train with. What's wrong, extras? Don't think you can keep up. Bakugo stood up and started chasing them around the gym. Aizawa, I don't think. Aizawa cut off All Might with a look. I don't really care what you think. You're going up against Midoriya. Nezu smiled and wrote it down on a piece of paper. I see. Well then, Aizawa. I have everything else figured out. We'll be ready for exams. Nezu, he looked to All Might. I'm sorry, All Might, but it's already decided. We shall discuss everything at a later date. Soon they would be having the tests, and Izuku was nervous. Not about the academics part, but rather the fighting portion. Kendo told him it might be robots, but that was previous classes. This class was always different, so he more or less figured out it would be a different test. He wanted to make sure he was prepared, which is how he ended up at Hatsume. 1 mil, good to see ya. The thing she was messing with exploded before she ran over to him. What do I owe the pleasure? He smiled and pulled out his notebook. So glad you asked, my mechanical friend. I have a few ideas. He showed her the ideas while she asked a few questions. Okay, these could go in your gun. But you have to be careful. Only load them as soon as you want to shoot them. Got it. He nodded excitedly, and for this, she held the drawing closer. I can do this easy. All you need is a scope, longer rest, and more power. I can make this baby in my sleep. Thank you so much, Hatsume. Think you can get it all done before the tests? Are you kidding? I can finish most of this today. He tackled her into a hug. Thank you so much, she smiled widely. No problem. And as payment I get to make any mods to your costume I want. He laughed a little and put his hands up. I have full faith and trust in you. Power Loader shook his head, already not prepared for the amount of chaos about to happen. It was in the middle of training that Hatsume ran in, jumping up and down. 1 mil, 1 mil, 1 mil. Izuku ran over, and she started shaking him. I finished. You need to try it all right now. Come on, come on. She dragged him to the support course and gasped at seeing all the finished products. Hatsume, oh my god. He pulled her and kissed her on the cheek. Thank you so much. You are a god. She looked smug and pointed to the ground. Bow before the god, Hatsume. Izuku started bowing before standing up and grabbing everything. Thank you so much. It all works like we talked, right? Of course. This is my best work yet. For the additions, all you have to do is click this and let go. It'll turn into what you need. And I may have added something to your costume. Izuku looked at her with a smirk. Oh, she nodded her head and showed him. When she hit a small red button on the mask, and it lit up red, she clicked it a few more times, making it change colors. Izuku gasped and looked at it. All the parts that were gold could now light up. It's all waterproof, can be turned off. It'll still have gold if turned off, and it does the same to your shoes. I even added metal soles for you. He gasped again and started jumping up and down. I love you so much. He hugged her tight with her returning it. You better. Now ace the test. Finally, the day of the test arrived. Everyone seemed excited or nervous, as they all waited in front of fake cities. We'll kill this test. Robots, Mina and Kaminari cheered. Izuku looked at them with a smile. At least they were having fun. Izuku, Shinsu got his attention. You never told us what additions you got. Todoroki nodded, seeming interested. Well, it's a secret for now, but... He clicked the button, making the mask and shoes light up. Hatsume made me a glow stick. Some of them gasped and started making him change the colors. Quiet down. Izuku turned it off and looked to where the teachers were. Are any of you aware of what the test is? Mina and Kaminari interjected. We're fighting robots. Aizawa smiled evilly. Not exactly. Nedzu popped out of his capture weapon, shocking them all. We have changed it for this class since it's special. Some of the students groaned. Some of ya will be fighting the teachers. Aizawa added at the end, making the class gaps. Izuku's eyes widened. He hadn't been expecting that. Others will be doing tests made by me, Nedzu announced while throwing his hands up. Mina, Kaminari, Sato, and Kirishima all looked nervous. Some of you will also be in pairs. Some of you will be by yourself. It all depends how we see fit. Aizawa pulled out a list and began reading it off. Ashido and Kaminari. You'll be going through escape rooms made by Nedzu. Uraraka and Aoyama, you'll go against 13. Su and Takoyami, you'll go against ectoplasm. Ida and Ojiro, you'll attempt a high-risk hostage situation. Kirishima, you'll deal with a large building shootout. Koda and Gyro against Present Mike. Sato and Shinsu against Cement Toss. Shoji and Hagakure against Snipe. Zero and Bakugu against Power Loader. Izuku already had a bad feeling. Todoroki and Yayurazu against me. And finally, Midoriya against All Might. He felt eyes and worry on him while he kept looking forward at Aizawa. He saw All Might look at him with pity. That's when he knew he wanted to go through with it and win. So when do we start? Turns out Izuku would be going last, meaning everyone would be able to watch the battle if they wanted. Are you nervous? Uraraka asked. Izuku's face hadn't changed from blank at all. No, I'm prepared. For Izuku, his test was more or less a game of tag with a scavenger hunt. He had to collect 5 items and bring them all back to a hideout. If All Might caught him and brought him back to the entrance, he lost. If he got all 5 without getting caught, he won. Or if he got a pair of cuffs on All Might, he won. I'm petrified, Uraraka blurted out, making Izuku jump. Why? You're an amazing fighter. You'll do great. She looked at Izuku like she was going to cry. She hugged him and sobbed. You're so nice, Midoriya. She quickly recovered before snapping her fingers. I'm officially calling you only Mido now. He laughed at her antics. Well then, I'm calling you Yura. The first up had been Mina, Denki, Su, Takoyami, Hagakure, and Shoji. Everyone was doing good in their tests, except Mina and Denki, who hadn't gotten past the first room yet. Think they'll ever make it out? Kyoka asked, walking up next to them. They'll be in there till they're fucking 30. Ida began yelling at Katsuki to have faith in their classmates, while everyone else watched. Izuku smiled before walking away from the group and heading out to one of the hallways. Young Midoriya, Izuku stopped, but didn't turn towards the hero. Young Midoriya, if you don't want to do this, I won't force you. I know you won't be able to paw. Izuku turned around violently, making the hero jump back. Shut up. He faced the hero on. You don't have faith in me. I get that, okay? So shut up and let me do what I need to. Don't you dare go easy on me either. He closed his eyes before walking off into a room to plan out his test. He stood in front of the gate with determination. He knew it would be difficult to fight All Might. That was the point after all. But he also felt like he could win. The 5 items he needed were a gold bracelet, a specific civilian, a guarded case, a cop's badge, and finally an artifact in the large museum. He knew that All Might didn't know his targets, but he was also the #1 hero. He seemed stupid, but he could most likely tell when things were important. The most obvious would be the guarded case in the bank area. That's also where he could get the police badge. Begin. As soon as the buzzer went off, he bolted in and immediately hid in one of the alleys. The bracelet would be on one of the civilian bots in the area. He wasn't allowed to purposely attack them, but neither was All Might. Climbing up one of the buildings, he laid on the roof. He opened his case, starting to pull out the parts and attach them to his handgun, turning it into a sniper rifle. Using the scope, he silently praised Hatsume. It was pretty advanced, showing how far the target was and what angle he needed to aim at to hit them. Luckily, he was able to use it and zoom in on what bracelet he needed exactly. It was on a woman in the shopping district. He had to slip it off her without triggering the bot, who would alert All Might of his position. He climbed off the roof and hid his weapons and parts of his costume in the alley, letting him look more civilian like the bots. If they saw he was armed, they would be triggered. If he looked out of place, they would be triggered. It was tricky, but he was close enough to the bot to see the bracelet. He passed by her and silently slipped it off her wrist before continuing to walk casually. Going back to the alley, he armored up before going to the drop-off point and placing the bracelet and running. He was already back in the alley when he heard it announced that he had delivered one of 5 targets. He watched through his scope as All Might appeared and searched the area, but didn't find him. After all, you don't run and hide from bullies for years without learning a few tricks. His next target would be the special civilian. Using his scope, he was able to spot them. They had one security bot with them, made to alert and put up a fight if he were to approach. He got to the ground again and waited until a single robot passed by him before grabbing it and shooting it with one of his bullets. It let out a small shock that stunned the robot and made it unable to move or alert anyone. He used his staff to pry open the chest and look at the mechanics. Hatsume had explained the simpler parts, like showing how long it took each bot to alert someone, which was apparently 10 seconds. Closing the hatch, he pushed the bot out of the alley and ran, knowing the bot would alert All Might of the previous location. All Might was getting tired of this game. He had been getting almost constant alerts all over about villain sightings, which were just Izuku running around and completing the tasks. He had only heard the alarm signal at once, but maybe he was collecting them to do it all at once. Either way, he needed to focus on the one he was able to figure out. It was a guarded case in a bank. He couldn't think of any way Izuku would be able to get it if he was there. The kid was quirkless and too confident for his own good. Izuku stood across the road from the target. He hadn't triggered any of the other bots yet, which was surprising since he was armed, though he assumed they thought he was a hero in this situation. As fast as lightning, he shot the guard, making it freeze and trigger some of the bots. He ran across the way and grabbed the civilian, using capture tape to keep it still before he stunned it. He could hear the sirens of the cops and picked up his pace, shoving the bot into an empty apartment and stunning it again for good measure. When he saw All Might land at the scene and listen to the bots, he dragged the bot to the drop-off area before running and hiding again. He knew if he wanted to get the badge, he would need to trigger it, but not enough to call All Might over. He watched through his scope as All Might went to the drop-off area. Knowing it wouldn't announce him for another minute, he jumped down and tackled the cop with the badge, ripped it off, shot 3 other cops, and ran back into his area. All Might came back and checked over the police with a huff. He wanted to laugh at how easy it was to play the #1 hero when he underestimated Izuku. He wondered why more people didn't do it, before thinking off the possible casualties if he was a real villain. He ran past, shooting one of the paint bullets to confuse All Might, before dropping the badge at the drop-off. The plan was going perfectly according to his analysis. "What's he doing exactly?" Shinsu asked, looking at the screen. They had barely seen Izuku, and when they did, he was getting things quickly and triggering bots. "He's playing the fool." The group looked to Recovery Girl, slightly shocked. All Might thinks that Midoriya won't have the guts or strength to take him on for the final piece. Sad for him, Midoriya's already planned everything. She's right. Sensei's been messing with him like a toy. Every time All Might thinks he's close, Sensei is already 2 steps ahead. Kyoka explained she had seen Sensei act like that a few times, whether in dance battles or training. He always analyzed everything, thought ahead, a million different plans if one failed. All Might wasn't winning this. It was sad how simple getting the museum artifact was. It had only taken him around 5 minutes to get past the security, lasers, and get the artifact without anyone knowing. He had gotten everything except the case. The final part of his plan was falling into place. All Might wasn't winning, and neither was Izuku. Not in the way everyone expected. He stood across from the last building and watched. Police and workers going in and out of the building, likely being ordered around by All Might. He wanted these next few parts to be a show with All Might as the audience. Taking a few steps back, he sprinted across the roof until he jumped over the gap. He knew the robots would see him and likely notify All Might of his presence and location. He used his staff to catch himself on the edge before flinging himself the rest of the way on the other roof. He walked over to the box on the side of the door and bashed it in on itself. Power soon being cut from the building and emergency red lights turning on. Clicking the button a few times, he waited till his mask, shoes, and lining glowed red before bashing the door in and walking down the stairs casually. He knew how to get to the object he needed from anywhere he needed. especially if a part of the plans failed. He would need to change course and get there from somewhere else. When he did finally make it to the hallway before the object, there were police bots aiming guns at him. Though he knew they were loaded with paintballs, and if he got hit too many times, he would be considered out. He ran at them, zigzagging before jumping onto the wall and spinning. Using his staff, he knocked them all down, making them deactivate. He took the keys from one of them and kept walking, unlocking the door and seeing more bots. Why did he make it light up? Uraraka asked, watching the screen. Those who had finished or were still waiting were watching Izuku's fight intensely. It helps him blend and more maybe, Kaminari offered, though he didn't really know why either. He had shown them that the colors could change, but they didn't imagine him using it like this. It does. When he gets into the room, though it's gonna make him stand out. Shinsu pointed out as they watched All Might look at the door. I think he wants that, Todoroki said. This entire time he's been messing with him, right? Maybe he wants to stand out to prove something. It was silent as they watched him take down more of the bots before stopping in front of the door. He stared at it before looking up to a vent, popping it open, and climbing in. He's using the vents to get in, that's smart, Momo said with a smile on her face. She was glad her friend was doing so well. He could see All Might looking at the door confused. He probably heard Izuku fighting, and was waiting for him to show up. He crawled silently until he was above the last object. He opened the top before reaching down and grabbing it, putting it in the vent before closing it, and standing behind All Might. You know, All Might whipped around in shock, staring at Izuku as he sat on the pedestal calmly. I didn't think that would work. You sure you're the #1 hero? Give up now, young Midoriya. We can end this before you get hurt. He crossed his legs and rested his elbows on his knees. Why would I do that? I already turned everything in except the last one, and you have no idea where it is. He threw his hands up and laughed a little. Did you know you can hack into the robots? Make them do what you want. He saw fear and panic flash across All Might's face. I suggest you move quickly. The hero ran out, leaving Izuku in the room. Once he was far enough away, Izuku burst out laughing, falling off the pedestal before getting the last object out of the vent and leaving the building with a smile. He made it to the drop-off point and looked around wildly. He couldn't see any robots in sight, and none on the way. Izuku had lied to him. He turned and rushed back to the building, finding it empty, with the vent cover opened and a note. I'll be at the drop-off site. Have fun losing. Zoxo. Midoriya. He crumpled the note in his hand with a growl before going back to the site, and seeing Izuku standing next to the drop-off and holding the case. You lied and tricked me. Izuku turned to him and tilted his head. What, like it's hard? And you fell for it too? He set the case just outside the zone and walked away from it casually. He could feel All Might staring at him, watching his every move. What exactly is your angle? Izuku was silent for a moment before turning to him. You know the saying, work smarter, not harder. All Might nodded his head hesitantly. Well, I worked smarter this entire time. It was kinda sad how easy it was to trick you and make you run around everywhere. All Might sighed a little. But I've been working harder my entire life to get to where I am. He put his staff away and cracked his knuckles and stretched a little. I think it's time I show that, don't you? There is no need for this, young Midoriya. Take the easier way out. No one will think less of you. It's still a win. Izuku glared. Just like being a cop or EMT is an honest job. All Might seemed to flinch a little at the reminder of the time on the roof. Because it would be too dangerous for me to be a hero, right? I might get hurt. I might have to face villains because another hero is late. All Might took an actual step back that time. Or I might have to face down a serial killer. He was getting the reactions he wanted from the hero. So the plan was working. So maybe it is dangerous, but I'm still here, so let's get this over with. He got into a fighting position. As you wish. Is he actually going to fight All Might? Kaminari shouted with Mina looking almost excited. Get him Mido, bro, Kirishima cheered. The others looked worried or excited as they watched it begin. Izuku was the first to attack. Though it didn't surprise him. All Might was still thinking of him as useless and unable to defend himself. He ran at the other and made it seem like he was going for a kick. When All Might got ready to block, he shifted and took out his staff before separating it and jabbing it into his stomach and adding the shock. It was a cheap move since he knew about the injury, but he would have done it anyway. It forced All Might to lose his breath for a moment, giving Izuku the chance to knock his feet out from under him. He was about to hit him with again when a hand grabbed one of his rods and broke it. He jumped back and watched as All Might stood up with a glare. He only smirked before running at him again. He went for a kick only for his leg to be grabbed and slammed into the ground. He winced a little, but otherwise didn't show any pain from the hit. He made it seem like he was down before taking his rod and jabbing into All Might's side, letting the full shock go and disorient him. It didn't last long as All Might grabbed a metal fence and used it to pin Izuku to the ground. the force knocking the air out of him and slamming into the ground enough for it to crack. You fought hard, young Midoriya, but this is over. Izuku coughed a little, feeling blood run down his chin before laughing a little. As All Might was too busy talking, he switched out his rounds for the ones May had specially made for him. Yeah, it is. He aimed the gun at All Might, who only watched for you. He shot the round, having it hit All Might. As soon as it made contact, it let out an explosion, pushing All Might back. He angled his feet against the fence and kicked up with enough force for it to get unstuck and let him up. He aimed the gun and unloaded the clip at All Might, making him go down and start coughing. Izuku ran up and spun, kicking him down before grabbing onto his face and bashing it into his knee. He felt All Might grab his leg, but didn't let it last long before he punched the hero. When All Might threw him, he twisted behind the hero and slammed down onto his back before getting one of the cuffs on his hand and twisting his arm back. He reloaded and shot more rounds at his leg before finally getting the second cuff on. Midoriya Izuku wins. Everyone stood in shock before erupting into cheers as the winner was called. Recovery Girl rolled her eyes and stood up, walking to the infirmary. She knew both of them would need a little medical attention. When she walked in, she already saw Izuku taking off his costume. He had a bloody nose, split lip, bruising on his back and chest, a sprained ankle, and he was coughing blood. Go ahead and sit down, sweetie. He nodded and practically sank into the bed. You did good out there. Your friends were cheering you on. Though I wish you would win without hurting yourself so much. He chuckled a little. Sorry, Recovery Girl. I'll try harder next time. She huffed a little, but began wrapping and healing his wounds. You'll be out for a while. I'll have someone come in and stay. She was about to use her quirk when All Might in his skinny form walked in. I'll let you two talk first. Izuku looked down and glared at the floor. Young Midoriya, I am sorry. Izuku's eyes widened a little before going back to the glare. I judged Yao based on myself. Before my quirk was passed down to May was quirkless. He whipped his head and stared at All Might. I wasn't able to show people what quirkless could do, so I am sorry for that. Thank you, All Might. Izuku was glad that he finally saw the problem at least, though Izuku still didn't like him all that much. Young Midoriya would like to offer you my quirk. What? Izuku remembered him talking about his quirk on the roof, how it could be passed down. He figured that was why he started working at UA. I would like to help you become a hero with this quirk. Izuku stared at him before glaring. He stood up and balled his fists. Are you serious? All Might nodded his head. I don't want a stupid quirk. Izuku stomped one of his feet before wincing since it was sprained. I have worked my whole life to be seen as something useful, strong, smart, everything. If I took a quirk now, it would all go to waste. He put his head in his hands. No, I don't want your quirk, All Might. Get the hell out of here. All Might was silent for a moment. I am sorry, young Midoriya. As soon as All Might left, Izuku felt tears streaming down his face. He growled before turning and punching the wall. It cracked a little, and he felt his knuckles shift a little. Fuck. He hissed and sat back down on the bed, cradling his hand. I keep telling that oof to learn some manners. He looked at Recovery Girl, who was frowning. Let me see that hand, dearie. He showed her his hand, and she tensed a little. Next time, just punch him. He laughed a little as she pressed a kiss to it. He could already feel the tiredness take him over as he laid down. This is an interesting development. The man chuckled while watching the video. Informed Shigaraki of another possible recruit. He watched Izuku finally fall asleep. Interesting indeed. Mido, that was amazing. Uraraka yelled with a wide smile as she and the others burst into the room. I sadly missed some of it. But from what I have heard, you did well. Ida complimented as he chopped his arms. It was intense. Kiro, Izuku smiled a little as they all sat on the bed with him. Are you okay? Todoroki asked, looking at the bandages and tired look on Izuku's face. Yeah, sorry. Just really tired is all. He tried to wave them off, but they still seemed a little concerned. Do you have work today? Izuku looked to Shinsu a little confused. No. Let's hang out then, Uraraka declared as she shot off the bed. We can do another sleepover. Get junk food. Watch movies. Don't worry, Ida will study a little, Izuku smiled. That sounds awesome. My place again. As long as you're okay with it, Midoriya. Tsu said as the others texted their guardians to let them know what was going on. Of course. He looked down a little with a sad smile. I love having you guys over. House is less quiet. It was silent as Uraraka looked close to tears. Ah, Mido. She tackled him into a hug, making him fall back with a laugh. We love hanging out with you. It is quite fun. It's very chaotic. It's nice. You sadly can't get rid of us yet. Shinsu joked at the end, making the others laugh. Izuku was walking home. He had let Katsuki and Kyoka know that he was having the others over. He knew they were slightly worried about him, but he didn't want them to be. He was doing good. Sleepover Study Group. Midoriya Izuku added Shinsu Hitoshi, Todoroki Shoto, Uraraka Ochako, and 2 others to the chat. Midoriya Izuku. Hey guys. Do you want me to pick anything up while I'm out? Uraraka Ochako. No way. You're already letting us over. We'll get the snacks and drinks. Todoroki Shoto. Why don't we all meet up at Izuku's? Then go to the store and get snacks and food there. I'll pay. Ida Tenya. We couldn't possibly let you purchase all of it, Todoroki. Allow me to buy some as well. Todoroki Shoto. I was gonna use Endeavor's credit card. Midoriya Izuku. Don't be shy. Spend all his money. Shinsu Hitoshi. Mood. Spend it all. Tsuyu Asui. I don't know why we don't like him, but do it. I think it'd be funny. Todoroki Shoto. Tsu, you are my best friend now. Tsuyu Asui. Alright then. Ida Tenya. Are we sure this is a good idea? Won't he be angry? Uraraka Ochako. What's he gonna do? Shinsu Hitoshi. Love the energy in the studio today, guys. Let's keep it up and steal a stop sign. Midoriya Izuku, can we? I've always wanted to do that. Tsuyu Asui. Why have you always wanted to steal a stop sign? Kiro. Midoriya Izuku. I have no idea. Ida Tenya. We shouldn't. It's unbecoming of heroes in training. Shinsu Hitoshi. First of all, you almost committed murder. Shinsu Hitoshi. Second, what if we take it from an abandoned part of town? Ida Tenya. I see no issue with that. Uraraka Ochako. Yeah, we got the approval of Dad. Todoroki Shoto. Isn't he also the class president? Tsuyu Asui. No, that's Midoriya, isn't it? Midoriya Izuku. Oh yeah. I don't really do anything. Usually Momo and Ida take care of it. I don't mind though. Shinsu Hitoshi. I feel like Ida is like the actual class prez and Izuku is like the Queen of England. A figurehead. Midoriya Izuku changed their name to Queen of England. Queen of England changed Ida Tenya's name to Dad. Queen of England. There. Uraraka Ochako. I feel left out now. Queen of England. Oh. Queen of England changed Uraraka Ochako's name to Feral. Queen of England changed Tsuyu Asui's name to Blep. Queen of England changed Shinsu Hitoshi's name to Gucci Bags. Queen of England changed Todoroki Shoto's name to Icy Hot Pain Relief. Feral. I want to be offended, but we're planning to steal a stop sign. Feral. I thought you'd name him Elsa. Icy Hot Pain Relief. Who's Elsa? Gucci Bags. Great. First movies Frozen 1 and 2. Queen of England. Shoto. We'll show you the light. Dad. Will we be studying first? I want to keep a good schedule. Blep. I think we study first. Then the stop sign. Then the movies. Feral. Awa. I wanted to steal the stop sign first. Queen of England. I think later's better. We'll avoid more people that way. Gucci Bags. I love that we have a set schedule now. Thanks, Dad. Icy Hot Pain Relief. We have to. We need to be good students and have time management. Feral. Herfoising sweet Todoroki what? Queen of England. I can't holy shit. Dad. Midoriya. I must ask you to not use such language. Queen of England. Sorry, Ada. But that was really funny. Gucci Bags. Oh yeah, sorry about this, but my dads want you guys to stop here and make sure we aren't doing anything illegal or something. Blep. We're planning on stealing a stop sign. Does that count? Feral. Nah, it's not illegal. Icy Hot Pain Relief. Yeah, we know the law. Queen of England. We aren't following it, but we know it for sure. Dad. We will follow the law close enough to not be arrested. Gucci Bags. Cool, cool, cool. My dads are pros, by the way. Feral. I stand by what I said. Soon enough the group had met up at Shinsu's house, though Ida seemed more nervous than normal. Shinsu came out, and they could hear yelling before the door was closed. Okay, look, don't freak out or anything, okay? Uraraka laughed a little as her and Izuku slung an arm around Shinsu on either side. It'll be fine, Shinsu. It's just your dads. They all walked up the steps and took their shoes off when Shinsu let them in. Little listeners, glad you could make it. When they all realized who it was, Izuku broke down laughing, almost falling if Shinsu hadn't caught him. Uraraka paused before soon joining Izuku in the fit of laughter as Todoroki, Tsu, and Ida walked forward. You have a very nice home, Kiro. Aizawa sat down on one of the chairs with a cup of coffee. Thank you, Tsu. He looked at the others and nodded to them. Hitoshi tell you why we wanted you to meet here before Midoriya's. Izuku and Uraraka calmed down and joined the others. You wanted to make sure we weren't doing anything illegal. That is not what we said, Yamada shouted, a little offended. We just wanted to make sure your parents were all okay with it, and with no supervision. My parents are okay with it. They don't mind giving me that extra freedom. They're just happy I have a lot of friends to spend time with. Uraraka explained, getting a nod of agreement from Tsu. My family is aware, and only asks that I check in several times while I am away. Fuyumi's okay with it. Endeavor's out anyway. Todoroki shrugged a little. The teachers didn't miss the glare that Izuku had before going back to a smile. We're not technically unsupervised. Auntie Mitsuki is always next door. Oh yeah, you live by Bakugo. Uraraka remembered as he mentioned Katsuki's mother. That's good at least. We'll let you guys go do teen things. Why are you wording it like that? The group all looked at each other. Should we get snacks then do the thing? Or do we still want to study first? The store is closest to where we want to go. I say we do that then study to get it out of the way. Sue said as they stood up and started heading to the door. Though I would like to stick to schedule, I have to agree. Cool, Endeavor's paying. Then we commit crimes. Shinsu said as he grabbed his jacket and opened the door. What? They all turned to the teachers, almost forgetting they were there. We know the law, was all Todoroki said as he stepped out with Ida following suit. Don't worry, we won't get caught. Shinsu and Uraraka started laughing as they all went out. Now hold on a second, Izuku laughed as he ran outside. Run. They had finished at the store and were walking close to Izuku's old area. It was still nearby, but it wasn't as nice as a neighborhood. How are we going to steal it exactly? We didn't buy tools, Kiro. Izuku smiled innocently at her before skipping a little ahead. Well, all we need to do really is get it off the post. They came up to their target. Shoudo, can you freeze the bolts for me? Todoroki nodded as he walked over to it and lightly touched all of the bolts. This is illegal. Ida chopped his arms again as Uraraka patted him on the shoulder. It's okay, Ida. We won't get caught, so it's not technically illegal. Once Todoroki had finished, Izuku walked over to it and jumped before slamming his feet into the back of the sign, knocking it off of the post. Stop sign. Uraraka and Izuku cheered as Shinsu picked it up. Huh, I didn't think that'd work. Shinsu admitted as he showed the group the sign. The deed is done. Let us return to the castle and mount our prize. Uraraka picked it up like a prize as her and Izuku skipped and cheered. The other four watching them with smiles as they followed and talked about anything coming to mind. Uraraka, Ida, and Sue had taken one of the couches, while Todoroki, Shinsu, and Izuku took the other. They were about halfway through Frozen 2 when Todoroki finally spoke up. Does this mean I'm the fifth element? The group turned to him. Uraraka and Izuku seemed to already come up with a plan. You are, absolutely. Shinsu said while nodding his head. Todoroki nodded his head back. Goodbye. I'm going to the forest to find a lizard and some wind. The group lost it at that as Todoroki smiled, seemingly glad he made the group laugh. Oh, I'll go first. Uraraka cheered as she stood up a little. When I was younger, I just thought everyone liked every gender. I asked my mom about it later, and she explained it to me. I had no idea till like middle school. The group laughed a little while Todoroki looked confused. Is it not? Everyone paused and looked at him. Well, it is natural and normal. Not everyone likes or feels the same. Ida explained shortly while the others thought about it for a moment. Yeah, I know I'm bi, and Sue said she's a lesbian. Uraraka added. Oh, I'm bi too. The two tackled each other and said something about being the chaotic bis of the group. I know Kaio's a lesbian, and I'm pretty sure Kaken's gay. I'm gay. The group looked to Shinsu, who shrugged. I'm just following in my dad's footsteps. The group laughed a little before Ida got their attention. I myself am panromantic asexual. I do not see the appeal of sex, but I do wish to one day have a stable and happy relationship. Uraraka immediately started grilling him on people in class he may like, while Todoroki seemed to be thinking. What about you, Todoroki? Shinsu asked, nudging the other a little. I'm not sure. That's okay, not everyone knows, Izuku assured as Uraraka turned her attention. I can help. He looked at her with wide eyes as she began asking questions. Have you ever had a crush on a girl? Todoroki thought about it before shaking his head. What about guys? Uraraka and Sue didn't miss his eyes going to Shinsu and Izuku for a moment before nodding his head. Okay, then you might be gay. But who knows, right? Go with whatever makes you comfortable, Todoroki. He smiled and nodded. Thank you. You have all been very nice. He rubbed the back of his neck a little. I've never really had friends before. Uraraka, Sue, and Izuku all awed before hugging the boy. I haven't really either. The whole quirk thing makes people not like me. Shinsu explained before he was dragged into the hug, Ida soon joining them. I get that. I only ever had Kaio and Kaken. I'm lucky to have them, really. They soon started talking about their school experiences and home life at some point, which led to the group learning about how Endeavor treated Todoroki and his family. I see, he looked to Izuku. I believe I will be attempting murder again. The group laughed a little. Shinsu at some point had pulled out his phone and texted his parents with the help of Izuku, who explained a few things, and any proof they needed it would be recorded from the sports festival. Todoroki, The teen looked at Izuku and Shinsu. I'm texting my dad's everything and Izuku said it was recorded from a security camera at the sports festival. If you're okay with it, we can get you and your family out. It was silent before Todoroki tackled Izuku and Shinsu. Thank you. The three hugged a little awkwardly before Tsu, Uraraka, and Ida joined again. Guys, the group looked to Uraraka. We should all call each other by our given names. We have to. We're best friends now. I wouldn't mind. Izuku shrugged a little. A lot of people didn't use his last name anyway. I'm fine with it. I would prefer it. As long as everyone is comfortable. Uraraka squealed as they all began thinking of nicknames they could use if they wanted. Though it was mostly Izuku coming up with them. It wasn't long either till almost all of them were asleep. Uraraka and Tsu were sharing a blanket and using Ida as a pillow. Todoroki had ended up as a heating pad for both Izuku and Shinsu, with Shinsu laying against his side and Izuku lying across both of them. In the morning Ida had made them breakfast with a little help from Izuku, while all the others talked and sat on the counters, getting scolded by Ida for sitting on something that wasn't a chair. There's too little time to worry about what is and isn't a chair. It was silent again before Uraraka fell over, and almost off the counter if Ida hadn't caught her. It looks like some of the class wants to go to the mall and get things for the camping trip. Tsu said as she showed them her phone. Oh, we can go. What time are they thinking? Izuku asked as he handed the plates to the others. Around noon, Hiro. Yep, we'll be there, Izuku gasped a little. I think I already have some supplies actually. Kaken likes to go hiking a lot. Me and Kaio have only gone a few times with him though. Izuku helped the others create a list of stuff they would need. Uraraka had been worried about the cost, but Todoroki just handed her a spare credit card without a word. Shouto, I will marry you on the spot. The group laughed a little while Todoroki looked confused. It wasn't long until most of the class had met up. Izuku wasn't surprised to see Bakugo missing, and some of the others, but brushed it off. We should split into pairs. Soon everyone paired or grouped up. Izuku had automatically linked arms with Uraraka, while Todoroki went with Tsu and Takoyami. Ida was with Shinsu and Aoyama. Shoji was with Koda, and Hagakure went with Oijiro. The present Baka Squad members had all grouped up and already dashed off somewhere leaving the others. Uraraka and Izuku had gotten almost everything on their list when Uraraka paused. I'll be right back. Gotta run to the bathroom. She ran off as Izuku sat by the fountain, pulling out his phone and scrolling for a moment before he felt someone near his neck. Hey, you're that quirkless kid from the festival. He froze at the voice and the hand. I'm such a fan. Mind if we talk Tilda? He knew the other wasn't looking for an actual answer. I would suggest acting like we're friends. Wouldn't want your friend to get hurt, or all these civilians. He sat a little straighter and glared at Shigaraki. What do you want? Shigaraki laughed a little and tightened the hand. Now, calm down. I just have a few questions is all. Izuku closed his eyes for a moment before looking back at the older. Now that you're calm, why don't you tell me he do people like Stain so much? Izuku's eyes widened a little at the question. I set a whole horde of Nomas out, and all anyone can focus on is how you and your friends captured Stain. Now why is that? Izuku took another breath before answering. Because he stood for something. He felt the hand tighten more but ignored it. He had strong ideals and made them clear. People agreed with them. Hero society is broken. The way he was going about it wasn't right. But it was a way. So you agree with him? Izuku got a distant look in his eyes. Though he could see Uraraka freeze before running back with her phone. He was thankful she noticed right away. Not really. The person he idolized is just as bad. And why is that? All Izuku had to do was stall him. He crushed my dreams on top of a roof. Right after someone told me to kill myself. He built something that will crash with him if it isn't fixed. And it will crash. He felt the hand loosen a little. Sensei was right. You are interesting. He looked to the other confused. Maybe I should keep you. We seem to think the same after all. He tensed a little, but saw Uraraka nearby with Shinsu looking between them before approaching. Hey Izuku, we finished up with. He pretended to notice the other. Oh, sorry, didn't notice you were with a friend. What's your name? Izuku knew what he was doing and pretended like everything was normal. Ah, sorry, didn't re. Izuku saw the moment he fell under Shinsu's control. He felt all 5 fingers touch his throat before he jumped back and toward Shinsu, holding his neck a little with blood pouring through his hand. Shinsu looked worried for a moment before focusing his control back to Shigaraki. Sadly, Izuku jumping away, and the slip of focus was enough to free him. Brats. I'll kill everyone here before you can stop me. The other said it quiet enough that everyone else couldn't hear it. Izuku glared and shifted a little, ready to pounce on the other. Even as some blood seemed to drip down, he could see the others getting closer. He wasn't the only one though as Shigaraki backed up a little. But that's for a different day. I'll need to leave. I wouldn't think about it. He turned and saw Todoroki and Ida at the ready behind him. Shigaraki smirked as a portal formed nearby. Izuku saw it and moved to block the exit, but was stopped when Shigaraki reached for his face. On instinct, he grabbed the other's wrist and twisted it before slamming him into the ground. Haha. People seemed to finally notice the blood and portal as they all ran from the scene, the others running towards them to help where they could. Izuku jumped back when Shigaraki reached for him again, though he tried to reach for Shinsu, which resulted in him being frozen to the ground. This is annoying, Kurogiri. Soon the portal moved and enveloped Shigaraki, taking him away. Shit. Shinsu groaned out. Izuku sighed, glad to see the others were okay. Izuku. Uraraka ran over and took her jacket off, holding it to his throat. Are you okay? I saw him there and wasn't sure what to do, so I called the cops before texting the others. I'm so sorry I couldn't. Izuku smiled and moved the jacket a little. It wasn't deadly, but the bleeding did need to be stopped. Acha, what are you talking about? That was the best option. It's my fault he got away. What? It's my fault? If I hadn't taken control when he was still holding you, you wouldn't be hurt. Shinsu sighed a little. No, Sue cut off Todoroki. I think we can all agree it wasn't anyone's fault. He can teleport. Revelry in the dark. It is ridiculous to think it anyone but their fault. Shoji nodded along with what Takoyami said as Aoyama crouched next to Uraraka. Let me assist. The blood will ruin your outfit otherwise, Tilda. Uraraka laughed a little as Aoyama used some fabric he had bought as a bandage. Thanks, I'll pay you guys back. No worries, mon ami, Tilda. I simply love those to always look fabulous, Tilda. The group laughed a little as they heard people running and saw Aizawa, Present Mike, Midnight, and the cops coming towards them. Is everyone okay? Present Mike asked frantically before seeing the blood and bandage on Izuku. They hurt the baby. He grabbed Izuku and started looking him over as the others were actually questioned. I'm all right, sensei. It's small, I promise, Aizawa sighed. You're all getting looked at. Got it. Any of you complain and you're expelled. Yes, sensei. Sleepover study group. Feral. I'm just saying if we really tried we could get away with killing any pro hero out there. Blep. You have a point. But what would we do with all the bodies? Isahot pain relief. I could burn them. Feral. We want to keep the murder as close to legal as possible though. Gucci bags. That sentence makes total sense. I agree. Keep the murder legal. Blep. You always lurk, Hitoshi. You only ever come on to make fun of us or talk to Shoudo and Izuku Kiro. Gucci bags. And you type Kiro, shut your mouth. Isahot pain relief. Wow, double homicide, did I do it right? Queen of England. Yes, show very good. Also for the bodies, if we play it right, we could put them in broken areas and pin it on random villains. What villain wouldn't want credit for a hero kill? Feral. Good point, Izuku. This is why you're the brains. Queen of England. Shouldn't Tenya be the brains? Dad, I believe I'm the parental guidance. Feral. Heck yeah. You wear that father badge proud. Blep. I feel like we should get him something that says number 1 dad on it. Gucci bags. Let's do the same to Aizawa sensei. Blep. But he is your dad. Gucci bags. Did I fucking stutter too? Queen of England. Oh no, the girls are fighting. Izuku finished packing his bags when he finally heard a knock at the door. Open the fucking door, Zuku. He rolled his eyes before running over to the door and letting Katsuki in. Took you long enough. You stood out there for like 10 seconds. Katsuki rolled his eyes and shoved Izuku as he grabbed one of Izuku's bags and walked out with the other following. Whatever, Kyoka's parents are already here. Izuku waved to the man in the front seat as they all hopped in the back of the van. Sensei, how's it going? You good? She asked, her eyes zeroing in on where the bandage still was around his throat. I'm fine, Kyo, nothing serious. The two gave him a look like they didn't believe him. I'm being serious, guys. I'm just keeping the bandage on as a precaution. Fine. But if I hear shit about you being hurt, I'm kicking your ass. Izuku laughed a little and nodded before going back to the chat. Sleepover study group. Gucci bags. I'm just saying, bruh. Blep. We know you're a gay disaster, it's okay. Gucci bags. Fight Mitsu. Blep. I will fight you, Hitoshi, and you will lose so bad that asterisk 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 and asterisk 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 will never look at you the same again. Gucci bags. Joke's on you. They've kicked my ass multiple times. Feral. Damn, he got you there too. Blep. Shut. Isahot pain relief. Why did you bleep those? Dad. Usually people do that when they don't want someone to know what they said. Queen of England. I think he meant, why can't we know? Gucci bags. Because I said so, dirty dancer. Queen of England. What did I do to you? Gucci bags. You look good doing literally anything, and I hate you for it. Isahot pain relief. What did I do? Gucci bags. Statement above shadow. Ice hot pain relief. You think I look good? Ice hot pain relief. Is he okay? He hasn't said anything in a while. Blep. He's having a gay panic trademark. Gucci bags. Fuck you too, you stupid lesbian. Blep. Right back at you, you disaster gay. Izuku laughed as he showed the others the chat, making Katsuki and Kyoka lose it. Oh my god, I didn't think Todoroki could be like that. Kyoka held her stomach as she tried to catch her breath. Jesus fucking Christ, half and half, and eye bags need help. Katsuki looked Izuku in the eyes. You like them, that's your type right there. Izuku glared at him and pulled up an old chat. Really? Because your type asked, along with Kaminari, what kind of animal the Pink Panther was. Kyoka lost it again and almost fell off the seat as the two boys glared at each other. Oh my god. The two looked at her with the same glare. Not my fault, my crush is the smartest in the class. Fuck you. When they got on the bus, Izuku was a little confused. Shinsu and him had both been handed their support items before they got on the bus. Shinsu with his capture weapon, and Izuku with his staff escrima rod, gun, his gloves and different kinds of bullets along with the new additions to his gun. Wait, do you always have those on? Shinsu asked, leaning over the edge of the seat to see Izuku and Todoroki sitting in front of him. Izuku looked at him weirdly before looking at the harness and holsters sitting in his lap. Yep. The harness holds my staff and rods when I separate them. He lifted it up, showing that it had crossed in the back and a strap that likely sat on his waist. And it lets me hold extra ammo so people think I don't have more than I do. He lifted the holster that was also connected to the harness and a belt. This is for my gun and extra ammo, my paint rounds, explosion rounds, electrical rounds, rubber bullets, and real bullets. Shinsu nodded before smirking. Very sexy that you could kill me. Izuku blushed and whipped his head toward Shinsu. Hitoshi what? Shinsu kept smirking as he crossed his arms on the seat. You heard me. Todoroki looked between them confused. I feel like it would be easy to kill you. The two turned to him a little shocked as he spoke. I could just burn you alive or freeze you to death. But why would we kill you? I feel like you could also kill us easily too. You would just need to use your quirk. Does that make you sexy? Both boys were left blushing once Todoroki finished. Look what you did. What I did? How is this my fault? Izuku gave Shinsu a deadpan look, making the other sign. Okay fine, maybe it is my fault. But I'm not taking it back. Izuku rolled his eyes playfully before messing with his straps a little. Stop here, everyone get out. As they all filled out, Izuku made sure to grab his weapons. He might as well strap them on if they're stopping. Midoriya. He looked over surprised and smiled. Ah, Sasaki, Kauta. It's good to see you both. Kauta waved a little shyly, while Izuku shook Sasaki's hand. I see why you wouldn't be at the dojo this week, she joked a little as he took a step back. I'm sure Kauta will be happy to have you around. He smiled and waved back to Kauta, who looked happy but glared at the others. I wasn't aware you two knew each other. Aizawa spoke up as Izuku began strapping on his weapons. Yep, I teach Kauta. He finished and brushed himself off a little, while he heard Uraraka, Mina, and Hagakure laughing. Shut up. Shinsu had tackled Uraraka, while Todoroki froze Hagakure and Mina. He chuckled a little when he felt something weird beneath his feet. He looked around and saw some of the others seeming to notice. How long do you think it'll take? I say lunchtime. Izuku looked shocked, but with a slight grin. You didn't. Aizawa and Sasaki smirked back. Oh, we did. Just then the ground beneath them began moving and breaking apart. Just as the ground left Izuku's feet, he pulled out his staff and broke it into two, using them to grab onto the side of the cliff and slow his descent. He grabbed onto Hagakure and Takoyami. Out of the corner of his eyes, he could see Shinsu grab the branches with his capture weapon, using another part to grab onto Kyoka and Kaminari. He could hear the others using their quirks to slow or stop their descent before they reached the bottom. Everyone okay? Izuku asked as they settled on the ground. He could see some of the others still stuck in the rubble. All good over here. Fucking bastards. I sadly survived the Great Fall. Izuku let out a breath hearing that everyone was okay. First trial, make it to camp. The pussycats yelled from the cliff edge where Aizawa was trying to cover up his laugh. That sounds easy enough. Sato spoke, walking deeper into the forest. Watch out, Izuku ran forward and used his eskrima rods to block the claws of a giant dirt monster. What the hell? What is that? Katsuki raced forward and landed on the monster, using his explosions to disperse the dirt form. It's one of the pussycat's quirks. He looked around a little, seeing more things move deeper into the forest. Everyone be careful, there's more of these things. Everyone nodded as they all got into battle stances. Momo, think you can give us a plan? Izuku asked with a wicked smile. Of course. Everyone group up. We know the general direction from the view from the cliff, so we'll head that way. Make sure your group has a defensive and offensive fighter. As soon as that was said, Izuku felt two people against his back. He turned slightly and saw Katsuki and Kyoka with smirks on their faces. He could see the rest of the Izukru and Baka squad pairing up and forming plans, as they all got ready, hearing the growls and roars of the creatures. So, how many do you think we can get? He asked the two next to him. Us? 20 easy. I say fucking 30, we ain't bitches. Izuku smiled and turned a little to them. I say 40 at least. Whoever wins gets $20 from the losers. You're so on. Izuku felt exhausted. But the good kind. The kind that left a buzzing energy under your skin. They had made it to camp a little after 6 p.m. Not as early as they hoped, but not as late as they had dreaded. Wow, a little later than we expected. But wow, you all did amazing. Pixie Bob cheered. Do you know how many monsters all the groups got? Kyoka asked hopefully. They hadn't exactly been keeping track. I don't know the exact number, but you all would have to have gotten at least 30. Yes, Katsuki shouted as Izuku and Kyoka groaned, hand it over chuckle fucks. The group watched in confusion as Izuku and Kyoka handed over money to a smirking Katsuki. Well, all right then, Mandalay turned to the group. You all sadly missed lunch, but dinner time is coming soon. Why don't you all get washed up and changed? Some of the others groaned while the rest cheered. A bath sounded like heaven. Who's that? Ojiro asked curiously, seeing Kouta look over them with a glare. Kouta. Izuku ran over to the other and smiled as Kouta tried to punch him. He caught the fist and chuckled. You're getting better at that. Next time, shift your foot back a little quicker and put a little more weight into it. Kouta nodded with a proud smile. I think Izuku said he was one of his students earlier. Uraraka explained simply. Aw, when did you all get so buddy-buddy? Kaminari whined before leaning onto Katsuki. Why can't we be like that, Kakin? Don't call me that. Kaminari laughed as Katsuki chased him to the men's changing room. Bakubro, come on, don't be like that. The class slowly made their way to the changing rooms, while Izuku got caught up catching up with Kouta about what he had been doing while Izuku was gone. Okay, women? Great, fantastic. We love and respect them. But men? Also yes. Ojiro rolled his eyes playfully at Kaminari's speech. No, he's got a point. Shinsu spoke up as Kirishima nodded along. What'd I miss? Izuku asked as he walked into the hot spring. Well, Shinsu cut himself off as he looked at Izuku. Sure, he had seen the other in crop tops, leggings, the works, but holy shit. He could hear Shiro and Kaminari losing it behind him, but he was still a little distracted. They were talking about their preferences, Shadow explained before looking Izuku up and down with a small blush. You're very attractive. Izuku blushed and laughed a little. Thanks, Sho, you're also very attractive. Izuku got called over by Ida and Katsuki, who seemed to be having an argument, leaving Shadow and Shinsu stuck to the spot. Oh my god, he broke them. Izuku wasn't sure what woke him up. It wasn't any of his friends, and there weren't any teachers or pro heroes around to do it. He remembers when he used to wake up this early though. Images of his mother passed before him as he got up, trying to move as quietly as possible so he didn't wake up the others. When he exited the building, he was met with Aizawa and Sasaki. Problem child, what are you doing up? Aizawa sounded more tired than he looked, though that wasn't much of a surprise. I don't really know, he laughed nervously. Is it all right if I exercise a little? Aizawa stared at him silently before sighing. Fine, just be back here in an hour. Izuku nodded before jogging away. Maybe if he was lucky, Kouta would be awake, and they could work on some new moves together. He had gotten enough texts and pictures to know that the younger missed Izuku, while he was away getting ready for the trip, and whatever the school had planned for him. Sensei was right, you are interesting. The memory hit him like a punch to the gut. What did he mean? Izuku thought it was normal to think like that. From what he could tell, his friends all agreed. Their society was idolized like a new pop band. But the more you read into its history, the more real it becomes. It's no longer a utopia, but somewhere with stronger people who think they can do what they want, and no one will stop them. Izuku knew it. He had seen it and experienced it. Kouta saw it. Katsuki saw it. Kyoka saw it. They all did. Underground heroes lived it. Victims dealt with it, and everyone else ignored it. He wondered if his classmates ever thought about it. It was likely to come up in a lesson knowing Aizawa, but he wondered. Maybe Uraraka, Tokoyami, and Shoji did, but he wouldn't know. Midoriya. He saw Sasaki waving him over, the shout snapping him out of his thoughts. Next to her was the rest of her team and the students. Quickly running over, he stood next to Shadow and smiled. Morning run. He nodded before turning his attention to the heroes who were talking. So today, you'll all be training with us. We're going to push you to the limits. Plus ultra. Izuku panted as he ran, growling and roaring following close behind him. He knew Shinsu was still handling one of the large creatures while he distracted another. Hagakure had been looking for something to help them fight off the beasts since they weren't allowed to use their support items. The point of their training was to help them fight things bigger and stronger than them. With their quirks or lack thereof, they couldn't rely on them all the time. So they had to learn how to fight without and get creative. Midoriya, Hagakure landed next to him as they ran. Up ahead, I saw a cliff. I think if we use the vines and plants you can swing away at the last second. Good thinking. Go help Hitoshi. He couldn't see her nod, but she left him to go to the cliff. When he finally made it, he taunted the creature before leaping off the cliff and grabbing a branch at the last second. When the monster fell to the ground and disappeared, he pulled himself up and ran to help the other two. Fantastic job, Tiger cheered, seeing the three unharmed. You will do fantastic as heroes. Hitoshi had his hands on his knees panting. Oh God, kill me, Hagakure and Izuku laughed a little as they all got water. Good thinking with the cliff. I got the idea from you. I remember you doing a bunch of difficult parkour, so I thought, oh this will be easy, and it was. The two high-fived while Hitoshi laid on the ground. How are you alive? Izuku helped him up. I told you, you need to work on your stamina. Shut the fuck up. Midoriya, Tiger shouted. I heard you wish to get better at your guns. We have set up targets. Go. Izuku grabbed his gun and ran to where Tiger pointed. Seeing some of the targets he shot them down, looking around for other people. He didn't trust the simple targets. It was too easy. Well, a voice sounded around him. It was too loud and echoey for him to tell where it was coming from. If it isn't 1A's quirkless wonder. He smiled a little, holding his gun close to him. Hi Monoma. He leaned his back against a tree and looked around, seeing a small black box. He shot it down and curved stomped it. Seeing it was a speaker, how's the training? Good I think. He saw another speaker not far away and shot it down. Though I will admit, this is more fun. Izuku laughed as he rolled to a different part. Let me guess, you copied someone's quirk. The speakers are here to throw me off. I have to take you down. Staying low to the ground, he searched for any other hints. Oh Tilda got it in one. He felt someone touch his back and whipped around to empty air. But who did I copy? Izuku shot down another speaker as everyone's quirks ran through his head. I'm thinking Hagakure or Kiwara. Good for hiding. He destroyed the final speaker. But I'm assuming you still have your clothes on, so Kiwara. Impressive. You do have a brain in there. Izuku stopped his movements, standing in the middle of the clearing, listening for any movement. After a moment he heard someone shift behind him. At lightning speed he spun around, grabbed Monoma's wrist, and flipped him to the ground, pointing the barrel of his gun near the other's head. Gotcha. The blonde was too stunned to speak, only staring as Izuku helped him up. It was all right. Izuku laughed as Monoma walked back toward where Tiger was. Once dinner rolled around, Izuku was delighted to know that a lot of his classmates weren't familiar with cooking. Izuku, Katsuki, and Sato seemed to be the best at it so far, though many of them were catching on quickly. Thanks for the food, Izuku laughed as his classmates dug into the food and talked about random things. He quickly noticed, though, that Kauta was nowhere to be found. I'll be back later. I'm sure Kauta's hungry. Izuku explained as he left his group to find the younger. He was a little worried since he hadn't seen the child all day. It was surprisingly easy to find him, sitting in front of a cave and looking out over the cliff. Hey Kauta, he turned around shocked to see Izuku. Thought you might be hungry. He set the plate down in front of Kauta, who looked grateful for the food. Thank you, sensei. Izuku ruffled his hair. Are your friends nice? I like to think so. He sat down next to the kid. I remember you saying you hated heroes because they wanted to flaunt their quirks. He looked over the cliff edge. I think some of them might want to do that, but they're learning. Some just want to help people or be different. Not everyone has to have a good reason. But if they help people, that's what matters. Still think most of them are stupid. Izuku barked out a laugh. That's all right. Some of them are. The next day they went through their training like normal. But near the end, the Pussycats announced they were doing a test of courage. It'll be like a haunted house, so draw sticks. Some of their classmates couldn't join them, though, since they had failed the testing part and had to take classes to catch up. Izuku felt a little bad for them. But he was also going to be by himself. Are you gonna die? Kyoka asked with a laugh. Izuku whined. I hate this. I'm good with horror movies, but I suck at haunted houses. Really? Yororaka asked, joining the pair. I figured you'd be fine with them. Kyoka started laughing. I'm not. 'Cause when I get surprised I automatically attack, so when someone jumps out I just sorta. He mimicked punching someone. So I'm not usually allowed to do them anymore. Yororaka soon joined Kyoka, laughing at his misery. So he patiently waited for his turn. Since he was going last, he talked to the groups to try and calm himself down. He didn't feel like punching another student if it wasn't in a spar. He was talking to Sasaki about more training for Kauta when he smelled something. Smoke? His eyes widened as he saw the blue hue to the area. Is something burning? It's blue fire. It wasn't a normal color at all. Izuku felt nervous and laid his hand on his gun. Something feels wrong. You're right. What? Pixie Bob was suddenly lifted in the air by a pink field. Pixie Bob. Izuku drew his gun and fired at the woman holding Pixie to the ground. They jumped back with Tiger grabbing Pixie, moving her away from the villain. Someone charged at Izuku, who jumped back. They were stopped by Tiger, who looked more than enraged at the attack. Villains. He isn't sure who shouted, but he changed his rounds to the electric ones before aiming it at the two villains. Midoriya. He looked at Sasaki for a moment before looking back at the villains. Where's Kauta? Why are the villains here? Izuku knew where Kauta was, but if he left then? Midoriya, go find Kauta. We got this. He looked to the pros before nodding, stopping to grab his harness and other weapons before racing up the hill. He didn't have much time if the kid was in trouble. He just hoped he wasn't already too late. Kauta, can you hear me? Come back to camp immediately. I can't reach you, but Midoriya's coming. I'm sorry, I can't save you. Kauta was too scared to actually hear her, but he held on to the fact that Izuku was coming. His teacher was coming for him. He would be okay. He had to be okay. I tried to look for somewhere with a nice view. The large figure crept forward. And I found you instead. But you're not on the list. I like your hat though. Kauta felt himself take steps back, tears pouring out of his eyes. Trade me for the mask. Made me wear it cause I'm new. Why was he talking so much? It was buying Kauta time. But how much longer? Kauta felt himself turn to run. But the man appeared in front of him. Let me get in a shot to cheer up. Papa, Mama. Before the punch could touch Kauta, though something had grabbed him and taken the hit. Izuku had wrapped himself around the kid to protect him from the fall, holding him tightly before standing up. You're okay, Kauta. I'm right here. It's okay. You're safe. The child held on to that small comfort. Izuku was here. He was going to be okay. You were on the list. Izuku drew his gun and aimed it at the other nice toy. Without time to move, Izuku unloaded the clip into the other man. Knowing his quirk had to do with muscles, he was going to test the limits today. Haha, that tickles. Izuku switched to his paint rounds, but didn't fire yet. He's safe, huh? Sounds like someone wants to be a hero. Tendrils moved around the man's visible arm. You all show up everywhere, talking about justice. Kauta was gasping for air. Not that Izuku could move to help him. It would give the villain a chance to kill them. You're Midoriya, right? Or do you prefer Dragon Sensei? He tensed at the name. It meant they had been watching him and listening. I'll be teaching you a lesson, so Sensei works. It wasn't smart to sass the villain. But maybe if he was angry, he would make a mistake. Oh ho ho, the man ripped his cloak off. I was told to keep you alive. But maybe they'll believe me when I say you wanted to die. The muscles appeared again, so show me your blood. A fist came at him. He barely had time to dodge, crouching and firing a shot at the man's neck and chin. In the position he would have rolled forward, but it left Kauta exposed. He had to take the next hit, and was smashed into the mountainside. Recovering quickly, he flew forward and back in front of Kauta, blood running down his shoulder. Oh yeah, and where's this Bakugo kid? They want both of you. The man smiled manically, but one will have to do. Izuku had to dodge a fist again, yanking Kauta away so he wouldn't get hit. All he could think of though was, why did they want Kanken? I'll take that as a no. Izuku stood back up, but was kicked to the wall and slammed to the ground, blood dripping down his forehead. Blood. This is fantastic. This is what I wanted. Slowly getting to his hands and knees. What did you say? He was safe. You're so weird. Finally able to stand, he switched to his staff, separating it and lighting it with electricity. He is safe. He spun the batons in his hands with a dark smirk. You aren't though. Racing forward, Muscular raised an arm to stop him. Izuku jabbed his escrima rods into the muscle and charged up the electricity to full before letting it loose. You're fast, but The villain was cut off as electricity flowed through his body at a high rate. The muscle closest to the weapon was charged and burning, filling the air with burnt flesh. He let go and grabbed his gun, aiming it at the man's eyes before firing the entire clip and blinding him. Muscular's arm flung back, dislodging the sticks and sending Izuku to the ground. You, son of a bitch. He picked up his weapons before switching out the rounds to real bullets, firing a few times to stop the muscle from fixing itself, while the villain tried to clear his vision. I was going to brag. Even give a quirkless fuck like you credit. That you were an inferior version of me. When Izuku ran out of bullets, he replaced them before putting the gun away and connected his staff, but keeping the charge. Muscular hit the ground blindly, sending rocks towards Izuku and Kauta, the older grabbing Kauta, dodging or protecting him from the rubble. Some of the larger rocks hit him and sent them to the ground, where Izuku kept Kauta protected under him. Yo, you're bleeding. You're hurt. Izuku gasped for air, letting Kauta up, unable to stop him as he picked up a rock and threw it at the blinded villain. Water hose. Papa Mama. Did you torment them like this before killing them? Izuku's eyes widened as Kauta shouted, trying to move. Kauta couldn't see someone else die by this man's hands. He needed to keep Kauta safe. Then he needed to get to the others. What if they were hurt? Your parents, huh? They were heroes? He turned towards them, following the sound of Izuku coughing and Kauta yelling. This is fate then. Your parents gave me this fake eye. It's your fault. Because of people like you. That it always turns out like this. Kids always shift the blame like that. Izuku bolted up and grabbed Kauta, covering his ears, trying to drown out the talking villain. Don't listen, Kauta. Focus on me. He could hear Kauta choking on air, unable to process what the villain was saying. We were all doing what we wanted. They wanted to help people. I wanted to kill. Izuku used his free hand and jabbed one of the sticks into the muscle, letting it burn him more. Stop that. He flung them back, Izuku taking the brunt of it again. What's wrong is trying to do something you can't. Like your mommy and daddy. Like this wannabe. Izuku threw Kauta away and took another punch to the wall, being buried under rubble as the villain cackled. A red pulsing pain shot through Izuku as he laid there in the rocks. It started at his hands and went to his chest before settling behind his eyes. He couldn't hear anything, only the rushing of blood and his own pained whimpers as he tried to move. He couldn't lay there. Kauta needed him. He had to get up. Katsuki could be hurt. They wanted him for something. They could be killing his friends, and he was laying in a pile of dirt doing nothing as they all died. He had to get up. Water hit him in the face, bringing him back, hearing Muscular talking again as water fell from Kauta's hand. He had to get up. With a burst of energy, he grabbed one of his fallen rods and his gun, jumping behind the villain and slamming it into the neck muscles, letting it light up and burn the man's body before shooting him near the base of his skull. When he didn't move again, Izuku yanked his staff out and put it away, letting the arm holding his gun fall a little, trying to breathe again as he put everything away and looked to Kauta. Are you okay? His voice was rough sounding, like he had been choked. Me? You're covered in bruises and you're bleeding. Izuku smiled and picked Kauta up, holding him to his chest. I'll be fine. I just need to protect you. He looked at the unmoving villain before looking back to Kauta. Let's go back, okay? I need to help your aunt and the others. Oh, okay. All right. Hold on to my harness, okay? And don't look. Kauta nodded and shut his eyes tightly. Once Izuku knew he wasn't looking, he turned to the cliff's edge and jumped down to the forest, using branches and vines to catch himself. It didn't help his injured state, but it got them out faster. It's okay to look now. Kauta opened his eyes and gasped at the state Izuku was in. Though the teen wasn't sure what he looked like, but it wasn't pretty. I'm okay. It's all right. Midoriya? The teen whipped around, free hand already on his gun, before he realized it was Aizawa. Aizawa-sensei, I'm so glad. He let Kauta down. There's a lot going on right now, but I need to talk to Sasaki. Hey, take Kauta and… I said hey. Izuku ignored him as he handed the child to his teacher. He turned to run, but Aizawa stopped him. Midoriya. The teen stopped and turned to him. Tell her, you all have permission to fight and use your quirks. With a nod, Izuku finally left the two and headed back to where the pussy cats had been fighting the villains, sure that his classmates had left the scene. He saw Tiger and the villain who had grabbed Pixie fighting. Tiger keeping her away from her weapon, but never landing a hit. Sasaki was fighting a villain with a large weapon made of swords. Using his escrima rods, he pinned the sword to the ground before slamming his foot down and breaking it. Kauta's okay. Midoriya. He rolled away and crouched next to Sasaki. I need you to tell everyone. Aizawa-sensei said we can use our quirks to defend ourselves. They're after Bakugo Katsuki. Tell everyone. Izuku heard the words projected into his head as he caught his breath finally, though his chest ached and he could feel bile rising in his throat. Izuku saw the villain Tiger was fighting try to go for him, but was stopped by the other villain. Big sis mag don't. He stood up and ran into the forest, looking for any of his friends. He assumed the other villain wanted to be a Stain copy, and he was publicly called out by the man. It made sense his followers wouldn't hurt him. As he ran, Izuku looked for anyone, even a villain to take down. Watch out. He was tackled by Shoji as something cut through the trees. Shoji. The rough landing shifted something that made him want to cry. What was? Shoji covered his mouth as something roared, picking him up and running away. It's Takoyami. Dark shadows out of control, Izuku gasped. We need light. I know that. Izuku wiggled out of his hold and lit his staff up. It was a small amount of light. That won't do anything. I know. It was enough to get his attention, though as the large dark figure focused on him, Run ahead and find Shoudo and Kaken. Shoji didn't question it, and began running with Izuku following behind him, trying to dodge the claws. That damn nerd, Katsuki shouted as Shoudo created ice to block the weird poles that chased them. Stop running into things. He did something stupid, Shoudo agreed. He was more than worried about the other. But if Katsuki was in trouble, he had to focus on that. He'll be fine. Don't burn down the forest. It'll kill everyone. Katsuki growled as he dodged again until they heard a roar and Shoji appeared. One of you, give us light. What? Shoudo was cut off as Izuku appeared, deactivating his staff before rolling out of the way, dragging Katsuki down with him. The creature pinning the villain down. Kaken, show! Izuku stood up and ran next to them. We need light, Takoyami. Hold on, Katsuki pointed to where the villain was getting up. Dark Shadow picked up the villain and began throwing him around and breaking his teeth. Look. Once he took down the villain, the two fire users activated their quirks, sending Dark Shadow back into Takoyami. Sorry. Izuku used his staff to hold himself up. Whatever injury he got was slowing him down. Thank you for saving me. Shoudo nodded before looking at Izuku. His eyes widened as he took the sight of his friend in. His torn clothes were dripping with blood, a trail going down his forehead and seeming to mix with tears. Where clothing didn't cover, bruises were already forming. Izuku. The team looked up at his name and put the staff away. Sorry. Just needed to catch my breath. He stood up fully. Is everyone okay? Everyone. You're fucking bleeding out, Katsuki shouted, jogging up to him and trying to look him over, but Izuku didn't let him. I'll get help later. We need to find the others and get back to camp. No one could stop him as he began running back into the forest, only following after him. Uraraka had Toga pinned to the ground, trying to find a permanent way to have her trapped. Tilda. The girl looked down and flinched when something was stabbed into her leg. You like your friends, don't you? You look up to Izuku. Tilda. The girl glared, taking a hand away to stop whatever was on her, letting the villain get up. But you don't love him like I do. No one does. Stain knew a hero, though Tilda. Izuku's so pure. Tilda. She was cut off, having to dodge a sudden staff. Izuku landed in front of Uraraka with a glare, pulling out his gun and shooting at the villain, forcing her to run away. Stop fucking running ahead, Katsuki shouted, soon appearing with Shoudo, Shoji, and Takoyami. Are you guys okay? Uraraka looked at the boy in shock. Oh my god. She ripped her button-up off and began ripping it into pieces to tie around Izuku. What were you thinking? He ignored her, seeming to only be running on adrenaline, and looked at Sue. Are you okay? The girl nodded as Shoji helped her down. They were all honestly surprised that he was still standing. Okay, we need to leave. Kaken could get caught and Izuku was cut off as him and Katsuki were enveloped in something, their friend's screams cutting off as his world went dark. Izuku slowly opened his eyes, groaning as the light blinded him. It felt like every one bone and muscle in his body was being torn and broken over and over again. Look who's finally awake, the voice sounded scratchy. Hello, little hero. Tilda. He squinted at the person as his eyes slowly adjusted. He was able to see a few figures around him, but the first one that came into focus was Shigaraki. He jolted back before whimpering. The pain had flared up, making him want to curl into a ball. I wouldn't move too much. He looked over and saw the misty villain. Your injuries are bad enough. It would be best not to aggravate them. Izuku glared at him, almost tempted to hurt himself to spite them. But if he wanted a chance to get away, he couldn't be in too much pain. Zuku. He looked to his right and saw Katsuki in the same chains as him. You all right? Piki. Katsuki stared at him a little longer before nodding and turning to glare at the villains. Now that you're both awake, I think it's time to talk, don't you? Why the fuck would we want to talk to you assholes? Last I checked, we didn't make the villain cut. First rule is being ugly as fuck. Dabai glared at Katsuki, lighting his hand on fire, but Katsuki didn't react. Oh, you're funny, aren't you? Shigaraki stood up. But I think our mindsets align more than you think. Doubt it, Izuku spoke up, trying to get the pressure off his ribs. We don't usually kidnap people. Maybe, but we usually try to kill people in alleys. Izuku froze. You have experience with that, don't you? Zuku. Katsuki spoke in warning. How about you shut your mouth when you don't know what you're talking about? Makes you look stupid. Shigaraki only chuckled. Oh, I think I do know. He harshly grabbed Izuku's jaw. Not everyone tries to kill Stain. Izuku glared at him before biting his hand. Shigaraki shouted and hit Izuku. Brat. Kirigiri stopped Shigaraki from hitting him again. Ha ha ha. Dabai howled with laughter. Oh, you're a riot kid. Izuku only glared at him. Can we get this fucking show on the road? When we break out, I at least want to know your dumbass plan. Katsuki bragged, trying to get attention off of Izuku. Well, of course, Shigaraki pretended like nothing happened. I want you to join the League of Villains. Katsuki and Izuku were silent for a minute, until Izuku started laughing, while Katsuki looked at them with a deadpan face. You're fucking joking. Far from it. That only got Izuku to laugh harder. Shut it. The teen tried to quiet his laughter as Shigaraki continued. You see, I remember the sports festival. You attacked that girl without mercy. That got Izuku to sober up. Most heroes don't do that. You think I'm a good villain because I kicked someone's ass? He asked with a smirk. First of all, I wasn't gonna hold back because she's a girl. I couldn't give a shit if I tried. Second of all, if that makes me a good villain, no wonder you dumbasses keep losing. Can't even tell shit apart. That seemed to piss off a good number of villains. You think that? We could give you everything you want and… Yeah, not interested. Shigaraki glared at the teen. Told you so, Tilda Toga teased with a smile. We should only focus on Izuku, Tilda. Not interested either, Izuku sighed. Can you let us go now? It'll make things a lot easier. Oh, but I think you are. Shigaraki turned away from Katsuki. Remember our talk at the mall? You hate this hero idolizing world just as much as we do. Don't you want to do something about it? Well, yeah. The villains seemed confident about the answer. But I'm not becoming a villain to do it. I'd rather just take you all out than deal with the scum who think they're heroes. Oh, now I know why Stain liked you. Dabai said, smirking at the teen. Izuku only glared at him. Izuku really is perfect. It really is a shame that neither of you see it our way. Maybe it's because we haven't been so welcoming. He looked to Spinner. Go ahead and unlock their chains. It can't be too comfortable. Spinner seemed hesitant, but did what he was told. Once Izuku and Katsuki were out, the blonde went over to Izuku to make sure he could stand. Think you can fight? Katsuki whispered, making sure none of the villains could hear him. I'll try. He nodded and let Izuku go. Everyone ready? Shinsu asked. The group had met in front of the hospital. Yep, let's go, Uraraka shouted, more than ready to go save her friends. All right, we should. Kirishima was cut off as Monoma appeared. You're going to try and save Midoriya and that Bakugo guy, right? What? We would never. I want in. The group looked at him in shock. Midoriya helped me. I can help save one wanna idiot if I have to. They all stood in silence until Shadow walked up and offered a hand. Welcome to the team. Way to be dramatic. Katsuki and Izuku stood against the wall, glaring at the villains around them. They were all standing on guard, waiting for the other to attack. Izuku flew forward and kicked Dabai across the jaw before slamming his heel down on his back. Katsuki aimed at Spinner and Magni, throwing them across the room and knocking them out with a force. Toga giggled as she drew her knife, slashing at Izuku, who jumped back, trying to dodge the crazed teen. This is so fun. You should have joined us sooner. Izuku grabbed her wrist and flipped her onto her back. Not happening. He dodged Dabai's hand and turned, punching the man in his stomach. I knew you were crazy and stupid. Katsuki tried to hit the mast. But this is a whole new level. He laughed as he jumped on a table, sending another blast toward Shigaraki. Enough. The shout got them to stop. Pizza. They all turned to the door in confusion until the wall was shattered. Heroes. Katsuki grabbed Izuku and dragged him away, making sure they were away from the fight. You all right? Not really, he admitted. After the adrenaline wore off, everything started hurting more. Katsuki sighed and looped Izuku's arm over his shoulder. He looked out over the crowd of heroes. Hey, we need some help over here. Mount Lady heard the yell and ran over to them. How bad is it? Hell if I know. She helped them get behind the heroes. Katsuki was cut off as something black began flowing out of the two teens' mouths. Suddenly the two, along with the villains, were in a large open area with a large lurking figure staring at them. Midoriya, Izuku, and Bakugo. Katsuki, how kind of you to join us. We're not fucking joining. Katsuki shifted Izuku a little bit behind him, his old wounds seeming worse from the fight and travel. It's not truly a choice. The power radiating off of the man was enough to almost freeze them in their spot. If the heroes hadn't appeared, Katsuki thought they were honestly going to die. Boys, run, All Might shouted. The problem was there wasn't anywhere for them to run to, so they tried to stay out of the way of the fight. We're gonna be in the way either way, Izuku pointed out. We need to get out of here. Little fucking hard with those guys, Katsuki said, looking at the villains who were getting up. If the heroes keep them busy, then they're just as much in the way. The two were truly stuck where they stood. If they went too far, they knew Kurogiri would get them, and if they got too close to All Might and the others, they would have to worry about protecting them. They didn't have to think about that long, though, as suddenly a large ice pillar appeared, 3 people flying into the air. Is that? They heard Kirishima shout for them. The problem, though, was that only Katsuki would be able to get to them. Go. If they came from over there, then Shadow and the others are there. Your escape will be a distraction. He was hesitant, but the blonde let Izuku go and used his quirk to get in the air. The villains tried to stop them, but the heroes blocked their attempts. As soon as he was in the air, Izuku ran as fast as he could to where he knew they were. He rounded the wall and almost cried when he saw his friends. Izuku, Shadow ran over and grabbed Izuku. Hey, are you okay? Shinsu, Uraraka, and Momo joined them. We need to go to the hospital, please. The group nodded, Shinsu putting Izuku on his back as they ran from the battlefield. The rest was a blur as Izuku slowly passed out before they made it to the hospital. Mitsuki and Masaru watched the TV with tears in their eyes. Their kids were in danger, and they could do nothing but watch as Izuku and Katsuki ran away and escaped the fight. The two adults didn't care to watch what happened next. If any of the students had half a brain, they would go straight to the hospital or police. Grab your keys. Already on it, honey. The two ran out of their house and to the car. Masaru, what hospital will they be at? Do you think the one they went to after that stain incident? That's the closest, right? I mean, the man set a hand over his wife's. Mitsuki, take a deep breath. She nodded and breathed deeply. See if you can track one of their phones. If not, call their teacher. Right. She looked at the map and saw 2 dots on it. It looked like Izuku's phone had been broken, but Katsuki's was still working. Same hospital. At least Katsuki is. All right, he rubbed her shoulder. They'll be okay. They'll be okay. Where the fuck are my kids? Mitsuki rushed into the hospital shouting, looking around wildly while Masaru calmly walked up to the front desk. She pointed at Shadow, who jumped a little. I've seen you around, Izuku. Where is he? Mitsuki, Masaru. They both turned to see Kyoka running down the hall. She stopped in front of them and rested her hands on her knees. Sorry, ran a lot. She stood up straight. Katsuki's with the police right now giving statements and Sensei's in recovery. They were worried about some stuff, but it seems okay. Thank you, sweetie. Mitsuki kissed the top of her head. Have you talked to your parents? Call them while we deal with this. She turned to her husband. Masaru, can you? I'll head to the police station. You go to Izuku. He quickly left with a polite nod to the nurses and other students. All right. She turned to the group sitting in the waiting chairs. You all do the same, all right? Contact your parents or teachers. I don't care. I need to talk to Izuku privately. Mitsuki, please don't. She stopped Kyoka with a frown. Call your parents. The girl stared for a moment before nodding. Now which one of you has Katsuki's phone? Kirishima raised his hand and offered her the phone. Thank you. Now go home and get some rest. She didn't let them say anything else before getting a nurse to show her the way to where Izuku was. It was terrifying to see him. The different wires, bandages, and paleness of his skin made it seem like he was already dead. The scene reminded her too much of Inko's last moments. Do you know when he'll wake up? Hopefully soon. The nurse flipped through a few papers. It looks like we have him on a light sedative. If he does wake up, though, he might be a little loopy. Right, thank you. Once the nurse left, Mitsuki dragged one of the chairs next to the bed, taking Izuku's hand in hers. Oh, if Inko could see you now, she sighed. What have you gotten yourself into? A lot. Mitsuki gasped a little before smiling and brushing Izuku's hair back. You sure have, haven't you? She laughed. Now, how are you feeling? Be better than before, maybe. Do you want the nurse? Izuku shook his head. Okay, now what were you thinking? You had us worried. The teen flinched back a little. Oh, Aunt Mitsuki, he groaned a little. I didn't ask to get kidnapped. Oh, really? Because you and Katsuki sure have a habit of getting into trouble. I resent that. He was smiling, so she knew. He at least thought it was funny. And Kyoka should be added to that list. She's just as bad as us. I don't see her being kidnapped. Ugh. The two laughed before relaxing. Thanks for coming, Aunt Mitsuki. I know Kaken's at the police station and Masaru is taking care of him, while I take care of you. And once you're done here, you'll be staying with us for a little bit, okay? Then you Uncle Hisashi is coming to visit, and to keep an eye on you. What? But isn't he working on that new project in America? He can work on it here, and make sure his nephew is still in one piece. I don't want him to stop his work, though. She took his hand again with a stern look. Izuku, you are still a child. A child with a stable income, insurance, a house, and a bright future ahead of me. He squeezed her hand back. I'm not exactly a child, Aunt Mitsuki. I've been taking care of myself for a while, and I know what I'm doing. But you're still our nephew. She shifted in her seat. You can think you're independent and by yourself all you want. But ever since Inko passed, and even before you've had us, you've had Katsuki and Kyoka, your uncle, your students and co-workers, and now you have your classmates and teachers. So you are not alone, okay? I know. He slowly pushed himself up so he could face her properly. I don't want to bother you guys, okay? You all have helped me be independent, so shouldn't I be doing that? I'm my own caretaker, right? The government considers me emancipated, so I should be doing this alone. Izuku, you are so smart. And so fucking stupid. Hey. No, listen to me, brat. You have been our kid ever since we met you, and you became best friends with Katsuki. Even Uncle Hisashi agrees. So the government can go fuck itself because you are our kid, alright. So we will be taking care of you for the foreseeable future. Izuku stared at her for a moment before smiling and hugging her. Thanks, Aunt Mitsuki. Zuku. The door was thrown open as Katsuki, Kyoka, and Masaru ran in. We were kidnapped. Did you miss that part? What the fuck? Katsuki whispered as he dragged a chair over with the others. Why were we kidnapped? Okay, Kaken, if I knew I would tell you. But I'm not taking what they said seriously. What they say? Kyoka asked, watching the two yell at each other. They said something about joining them. I'm sorry, and they asked you too? The teens nodded. Wow, they are stupid. Sleepover study group. Queen of England. I lived, unlike my real-life counterpart. Feral. Izuku fucking Midoriya, I will break into your house if you don't have us come over. Blep. I don't think I've seen such silence from Shoto and Hitoshi in ages. Gucci bags. If my DDS weren't heroes, they would kill me with how much I've been complaining. I am already running to your house, you can't stop me. Queen of England. I'm at Kaken's actually, and I think the Baka squad is coming over too. Dad. I believe we should make it a student gathering. To assure everyone is safe and doing well. Blep. I agree. Also, where's Shadow? Isa hot pain relief. I had to break out of my house, so I'll be there soon. Dad. Why did you have to break out? Isa hot pain relief. You ask a lot of questions. Queen of England. We can send a text in the class chat. Stop changing the name. Midoriya, hey. So Tenya came up with this idea, but the Baka squad and Izuku wanted to hang out. And we thought that we could all hang out to check in on everyone. If you can't come, let us know. Yayurazu. Good idea, Ida. I'll bring snacks for everyone. Bakugo. Why the fuck it gotta be at my house? Zero. Bakugo offered, don't let him fool you, Aidnajeff. Kaminari. He died a good man. Ashido. Truly a loss. Shinsu. Most of us are already heading over, so if you need a ride, let me know. My pops is driving me. Koda. I could use a ride, please. Shinsu. Sure, send me an address. Shoji. At Tokoyami, my parents said we can carpool. Tokoyami. The darkness is assured. Sato. Mind if I get a ride too? Shoji. No problem, DM me your address. Shoji. Same with anyone else, we have a very big car. Ayama. That is not a car but a bus. Also, I would like a ride, my good fellow. Ida. Just so we don't clog the chat, everyone please DM someone nearby for a ride. Hagakure. I mean this in the nicest way possible, but why is Midoriya class president? Midoriya. Someone had to be the face of the class, and obviously, I was the hottest, obviously. Ojiro. Well, okay then. Todoroki. Everyone agree, or I'm burning down every house. Ida. He won't. Todoroki. I will. Uraraka. I'll help. Ida. No, they won't, don't listen to them, please. Ashido. Didn't you guys break the law already? Like a lot? Ida. In order for us to have actually broken the law, we would need to be reported and caught, and neither of those have happened, so no, we have not broken the law. Yayurazu. Ida, that is not how the law works. Todoroki. What are you, a cop? Shinsu. Careful, Yayurazu, he doesn't like cops. Midoriya. He might call you a slur. / Gyro. Todoroki homophobic arc. Bakugo. We gotta kill him. Kirishima. Or we could just not. Zero. Kinda homophobic not to. Todoroki. Tsu, I need my PR team. Asui. My client cannot be homophobic. Ashido. Evidence. Asui. He likes men. Kaminari. Damn. Another one gets away. Bakugo. I say we still kill half and half. Ojiro. Does your phone auto-correct our names to our nicknames? Midoriya. It does. Gyro. It does. Bakugo Kai's. Shinsu. Kaken in his homophobic arc. Todoroki. Kill him. Kaminari changed chat name to Bakugo is a homophobe. Uda. Stop. Changing the name. Izuku was laying on the floor in the living room of the Bakugos with Katsuki next to him. Both of them were hoodies and sweats, texting the others random things to pass the time before they all got there. Masaru and Mitsuki had both promised to mostly leave the group to themselves, only coming in to give Izuku the medication the doctors had him on and double-checking that both teens were actually there. Neither could blame them for wanting to make sure they hadn't left, considering Katsuki had almost had a panic attack in the hospital when no one could find Izuku, even though he had only gone to the bathroom. I brought Momo. Izuku perked up a little hearing Kyoka shout. waving at both the girls while Katsuki barely moved. Does he have his hearing aids in? No. The doctor was worried about damage from the fight, so he can't wear them for a week. Yikes. Momo joined them on the floor in the nest of blankets and pillows, while Kyoko went to the kitchen, greeting Masaru on her way, and grabbing a few drinks. I wasn't aware Bakugo wore hearing aids. Is that why you all know sign? Pretty much. He can read lips though, and he's gotten better at volume control without them. Momo nodded in understand as she opened her bag. What you got there? I read somewhere that certain teas can help with pain and stress. I brought enough for the whole class, since I'm sure we could all use the relief. Momo, you are a goddess, Izuku sighed, sinking into Katsuki's side more. I swear if it didn't count as overdosing, I would eat all the pills the doctor gave me. That bad? Kyoka came back with a few sodas and waters, setting them on the table before sitting next to Momo. They didn't want to give me too much, but they also didn't know how much would be too little with my pain tolerance. He shifted his shoulder a little and winced. So everything sucks right now. I'm in limbo. The two girls chuckled a little. I'll make sure to make your tea strong then. Thanks. They heard the door open again, seeing Shinsu and Koda come in, though Koda looked nervous. Was anyone going to tell me his parents were our teachers? Katsuki stared for a second. Holy shit, which ones? Koda seemed a little surprised at the sign but smiled. Eraserhead and Present Mike. Katsuki glared at Shinsu. Why the fuck are our teachers your parents? His voice was a little louder, but no one commented. Because I'm just that good of a student. You're a fucking delinquent. Shinsu only shrugged before sitting down on the other side of Izuku, while Koda joined the girls. Soon enough more and more of their classmates came, bring food, drinks, and even a few games for everyone to play, which resulted in half of them shouting about Monopoly and the other about Uno. You have to pay, that's how you play the game. Ida waved his hand at Todoroki, who only shrugged. I refuse to follow the laws of this land. God has left the land, and we should have joined him. Shinsu and Shoji nodded along with Tokoyami. You all aren't following the rules. Uraraka laughed as Ida tried to get them to hand over the money they owed for landing on his property. Yikes man, did they say what was gonna scar? Kirishima asked, moving his arm a bit so Katsuki could lean against his side. Luckily not much. They said there might be one near my hairline and a few on my back and arms, but not nearly as bad as the ones from Usage or Stain. Izuku shrugged a bit, trying to hide a wince. Here, I'll make that tea now. Momo stood up and went to the kitchen, seeming to find Mitsuki to help her. Thanks Momo. He rolled his shoulders back and leaned against the couch. God, I miss not feeling pain. Here, Sato handed him a small container. I made some for everyone, but I think you could use a pick-me-up. Izuku opened it and smiled when he saw a small green cupcake. Thanks Sato, this is really nice. Ah well you know. The other only waved him off before going back to the game of Uno that was still off track with Kaminari and Kyoka fighting. What's happening over here? They all looked over to Shinsu, who sat next to Izuku again. Just talking while everyone shouts. I thought you were playing Monopoly. I was. But Tokoyami started a revolution with Ochako and Tenya became a dictator Sagat a little too complicated for me. Izuku chuckled before leaning against Shinsu's shoulder. Yeah, sounds intense. The teen nodded, reaching up and running his hands through Izuku's hair, and making him sigh, God, I'm gonna eat that fucking pill bottle. Or you could just take the recommended amount. He opened his eyes to see Masaru with the bottle, holding out 4 pills for him. Thanks, Uncle Masaru. No problem, kid. The adult turned to Katsuki, both quickly signing to each other before he left them alone. Here you go. Momo handed him a teacup. He took a sip before swallowing the pills. Does it taste good? It tastes so good, Momo, I love you. The girl only shook her head before joining Koda on the other side of the circle. Are you feeling better? They both turned to see Shouto walking over to them. He went to the space between Izuku and Katsuki, getting the blonde to kick him for being fucking cold. Not really, but there's not much I can do. Shouto nodded in understanding before wrapping arm around Izuku's waist. The other practically melted into the warmth. Or you can do that, thanks Sho. No problem. The three sat together while Kirishima and Shinsu talked about some new video game that had come out. Izuku and Katsuki both seemed like they were fighting off sleep. Though the fight didn't last long, as soon enough Katsuki was practically wrapped around Kirishima, and Izuku had his legs in Shinsu's lap, while leaning against Shouto. The class didn't mind though, some of the others soon joining in their own naps or laying down. Most of the games forgotten in favor of talking or watching videos on their phones. After the sleepover, the class kept in contact, mostly through their group chat, some stemming off and forming more friend groups or plans to hang out. Though the Baka squad and Izukuru were the ones usually at the Bakugu's house. Today was different though. It seemed like all of their parents wanted them home for some reason. Sleepover study group. Queen of England. I talked to Kaio and Kaken, but none of us know why our parents are keeping us home today. Feral. Buo. Blep. I agree. We could be doing crimes right now. Dad. Let's leave crimes for later, please. Izuku is still healing. Queen of England. Pain is the greatest motivator. Isa hot pain relief. Once I am free, I can come over and assist with the pain. Feral. What you mean by assist? Isa hot pain relief. It's in my name. Gucci bags. Don't worry about it. Gucci bags. Also, I know why teacher parents, we should be good to leave around noon if you guys want to go out and do stuff. Queen of England. You can't tell us though, can you? Gucci bags. Nope. Fucker knows but won't tell. Izuku turned to Katsuki, who was reading over his shoulder. This is dumb as hell. It's probably nothing, Kaken. The blonde rolled his eyes, about to argue when there was knocking at the door. Can one of you boys get it? Izuku almost stood up, but Katsuki stopped him, shoving him to the couch before going to the door. What the fuck do you want? He tried to see the door, but Katsuki was blocking it pretty well. Bakugo just let us in. That sounds like Aizawa-sensei. Whatever, he moved out of the way. Both Aizawa-sensei and All Might there in suits. Hag, old man, it's our teachers. Both teachers looked confused at the words, but didn't say anything as both teens sat on the ground. Oh well, hello. Mitsuki came out with Masaru behind her. It's so nice to meet you both. She shook their hands before turning to Katsuki. Don't call me hag brat, and show your father some respect. The two blondes began arguing while Masaru brought the teachers drinks. If you don't mind me asking, gentlemen, what's the purpose of the visit? We got the email to keep the boys home for today, but nothing else. Oh, that's what he was talking about. They all looked to Izuku. I was texting the others and Hito said he knew what was happening, but couldn't say. Aizawa nodded in understanding, while All Might just looked confused. We came here for two things. One of them is to apologize. Both bowed in their chairs. We are sorry that Midoriya and Bakugo were kidnapped. We failed in our job to protect them and the other students. There's no need to apologize. Our boys are both trouble magnets. Hey. Screw you, hag. The two blondes started arguing again, while Masaru only sighed. Thank you for the apology, but we understand. It was something none of us knew would happen, and you all did your best to bring them both home safe, and you did, so thank you. The second thing we wanted to talk about was a new system Yua wanted to implement to help make sure the students are safe and under constant watch from heroes and teachers. He pulled out 2 stacks of papers and handed them to Masaru and Izuku since the other two were still arguing. We would like to implement a dorm system. Once they had finished explaining with the Bakugas agree to let Katsuki stay at the dorm, and Izuku signing his own forms with an extra text to his uncle Aizawa, had looked to All Might who coughed a little. If it's not too much trouble, is there somewhere I could talk to young Midoriya privately? Izuku stood up and nodded to the hall, the hero following behind as they went to the guest room. The room was mostly plain with a black fuzzy blanket and a few notebooks and clothes lying around. Young Midoriya, I am so very sorry. Izuku expected a lot of things, but not that. Maybe All Might asking him to take his quirk again or some speech about how having a quirk none of this would have happened. But not an apology. You've worked hard to be where you are, harder than many other hopeful heroes. And you have the drive, compassion, and strength to do things other people can't, quirk or not. All Might took a deep breath. You've even done things I was scared to do at your age. I was born quirkless too, but it was different in my time and I know that now. I am sorry for the things I said when you asked me if you could be a hero. I'm sorry for the way I've previously treated you in lessons. And I'm sorry for any comments I made. He took a step forward and laid a hand on Izuku's shoulder. Yao, you don't need anyone's approval to be a hero, and you don't need mine. But for what it's worth, you are already a hero. One I could never hope to be, one for your classmates, and one for those who have their own struggles. Izuku didn't know what to say. It meant so much to him that someone he looked up to, even if he didn't want to, said those things. Thank you, thighs means a lot actually. And I'm sorry I didn't say these things before. I was blinded by my own pride and anxiety to see you truly succeed. All Might smiled for a moment before looking awkward. There was also, he mumbled something, but it was too quiet. Sorry? Be well with the passing on of my quirk. I will be focusing on teaching more and well Nedzu, and Aizawa were praising your teaching style. You want me to teach you to be a teacher? All Might nodded. Izuku tried to keep a straight face, but he started laughing. Sorry. I'm not laughing at you, I promise. He took a deep breath. I wouldn't mind helping you, All Might Sensei. Thank you, young Midoriya. Sensei. A group of bodies tackled Izuku as soon as he walked into the studio. He could hear some of them crying, while others were trying to hold it back. Guys, I'm okay, still all together. That's not the point, Tama shouted. You could have been really hurt. The scars would argue otherwise. One of the others pointed out. that got everyone to look at the different scars visible under the cropped hoodie and shorts. He did die. This is just a zombie to replace him. I'm not a zombie, Izuku rolled his eyes, a little annoyed that Katsuki and Kyoka hadn't come with him. Seriously guys, I'm fine now. All healed up minus a little pain. So that means back to work. It's good to have you back, sensei. Dragon's back, dragon's back. I missed him but not the work. Izuku rolled his eyes and waved everyone else off, about to go into the dojo when he saw 3 people off to the side. It was Maruko, Sasaki, and Kata. What are you guys doing here? I saw my intern get kidnapped. Do you think I wasn't going to bother you? Maruko tugged him into a bone-crushing hug. Now tell Medid you kick ass. He kicked major butt, Sasaki cut in, glaring at the other hero for cussing. And he bought us time to get everyone with little injuries, even saved Kata. She nudged the younger who just shook his head. Kata, Izuku crouched down, trying to get to eye level with the kid. I'm okay. I wouldn't change my actions. That's why heroes are stupid. The kid jumped onto Izuku and clung to him, tears rolling down his face. You got really hurt. But we're all okay. That's what matters. The 2 heroes looked proud as Izuku comforted the kid. Kid's right? We always save the day. And you're sure you have everything? Izuku rolled his eyes. Not that his uncle could see. Yes, I have the notebooks I want to bring, pillows, blankets, clothes, everything's packed away. And what if you want to change something about your room in the dorms? Then me, Kaken, Kaio, and any of the others that want to come go shopping and pick stuff up. Good now remember. Text you good morning and night, so you know I'm still alive and keep you updated, otherwise Aunt Mitsuki and Uncle Masaru will. He put the box near the door and took the phone off speaker. I got this, Uncle Sashi. I know, but you wouldn't let me come. Because you have a job. I'm fine. I know we love you, Izuku, and your mother would be proud of you and everything you've done. Izuku was choked up for a moment. This past week he had heard people mention Mom almost as much as when it was her birthday. Thanks, Uncle Sashi, love you too. He heard a knock at the door. I gotta go. Kaio's family is here with the truck for us. Okay, stay safe, kiddo. The 2 hung up as Izuku opened the door to see Kyotoku, Mika, and Kyoka. Hi, sensei. Is everything packed? Kyoka greeted with a hug. Yep. Just finished moving it all to the living room. He turned to the 2 adults. Thank you so much for helping. It's no trouble, Midoriya. Do you know if Bakugo is done? He texted early saying he was ready when you all would get here. All right, let's split up then. Kyoka's father pointed to the girls. You 2 help out Midoriya while I get the firecracker. Whatever you say, Dad. Be careful, dear. Once the man was out of sight, Mika sighed. Your father is so dramatic sometimes, honey. I know, we live with him. She turned back to Izuku. Where do we start, sensei? Wherever, really? I don't have much heavy stuff. Heavy for us or you? 'Cause those are 2 very different things. Shut up, Kaio. When they got to the dorms, Izuku let out a low whistle with the other teens nodding along. So the buildings were huge, and it looked like each class got their own. I'm claiming that fucking kitchen. You better share with Sato. That guy has the best desserts, Kyoka shouted as they all hopped out of the truck. Good, it's you 3. They turned to see Aizawa and Netsu along with a few guys. These men will help carry everything to the dorms. It's your job to put it away and organize it though. Just let them know whose dorm is whose. Thanks, Aizawa-sensei. The 3 were quick to split the men into groups, helping carry the heavier boxes to their dorms. Once they were done, Izuku looked at who was rooming where and started laughing, getting Kyoka's attention, who also started laughing. What the fuck are you laughing about? Someone rooms next to their crush Tilda. You both do. What? Izuku looked at the paper and saw Shinsu was right next to him. Oh no. Who's laughing now, asshole? Izuku. The teen had just enough time to turn and grab the body flying at him. He was able to shift the weight and only stumbled a little. Ochako. The 2 giggled as they hugged. I missed you. I know, you're my soulmate. You can't abandon me like that. The girl pretended to cry while Izuku pretended to comfort her. I know, the world is so dim and dark without you. Revelry in the dark. They both turned to see Takoyami putting boxes near his door. Hey, Takoyami. Hey, Kaken, Kaio. And I are gonna go shopping later to pick up anything we need for the dorms if you guys want to come, Izuku offered. Takoyami seemed a little surprised by the offer, but nodded. I will need something to shut out the light. He crossed his arms and looked down. Father wouldn't let me take the curtains. I'll come. But I don't know if I'll get anything. I'll buy it. All 3 jumped as Todoroki seemed to suddenly appear. I need to buy a few things too. Here, I'll text the class chat to see who else wants to go. Stop changing the names. Midoriya. Me and a few others are going out shopping later for stuff for the dorms. Anyone else want to come with? Shinsu. I'll come. Tsu. Of course you will. Shinsu. Shut your mouth. Midoriya. So it's me, Takoyami, Ochako, Sho, Kaio, Kaken, Hito, and Tsu so far. Ida. I would not mind joining. Yamomo. Maybe we shouldn't all go to the same place. I suggest we split into groups again. Maybe ask Aizawa-sensei. Midoriya. Here I have his number cause I'm class pres somehow. Midoriya added Aizawa-sensei. Aizawa-sensei. What? Midoriya. Some of us wanted to go shopping to pick up more stuff for the dorms, and we were thinking of splitting into groups and figured we should ask you. Aizawa-sensei. 4 groups, myself, Present Mike, Midnight, and All Might will take you. Yamomo. Thank you, Aizawa-sensei. Ida. We shall inform you when we have the groups. Aizawa-sensei. I'll be in the teacher's dorm finishing up. Don't be afraid to come get me since I'll mute this. Midoriya. Okay, Midoriya. I think we should maybe do it by dorm levels and troubleshoot from there. Shouto. Me and Ochako need to be in the same group, so I can waste my sperm donor's money. Midoriya. Well, alright then. Anyone else worried about funds and wishes to partner with Sho? Yamomo. Perhaps we list out the groups, the dorm floors, and go from there. Ida. Good idea. Ida. Group 1 would be Izuku, Hitoshi, Aoyama, and Takoyami. Ida. Group 2 Gyro, Hagakure, myself, Kaminari, and Ajiro. Ida. Group 3 Uraraka, Ashido, Shoji, Kirishima, and Bakugo. Ida. And finally Group 4 would be Yamomo, Tsu, Sato, Shouto, and Siro. Kaminari. Wait, if Izuku calls each other by their first names, then why not Tsu? Was she kicked out of the QP polycule? Shouto. I don't know what any of that is, but no. She simply prefers Tsu in public. Tsu. That's true, Kiro. I don't mind them saying or texting my first name, but going by Tsu is a lot easier in most situations. Shinsu. Izuku. Ashido. Yeah, you guys are like his crew, cause he's a dancer. And Denki means a queer platonic polycule. You all are dating each other in a platonic way. Midoriya. So true, bestie. Midoriya. Also, I rewrote the groups. Group 1 me, Hito, Takoyami, Aoyama, and Mina. Group 2 Hagakure, Koda, Tenya, Kaminari, and Ajiro. Group 3 Momo, Kaio, Kirishima, Kaken, and Sato. And finally Group 4 Sho, Ochako, Shoji, Tsu, and Siro. Yamomo. I assume you put a plan to these groups. Midoriya. I would never. But some of them, yes. I'll go get Aizawa-sensei. Once they were all ready, each group followed their assigned teacher to the shopping area. Izuku had been a little surprised when they got Present Mike. But watching him tease Shinsu cleared it all up right away. Pops, I swear to God, leave me alone. Shinsu groaned out, trying to cover his face as Present Mike poked at him. Come on, Hitoshi. When was the last time we hung out? Literally this week. You're no fun. He looked to the other 4. Come on, back me up here, listeners. It's true. Shinsu only sparks for a select few, Aoyama said, twirling a little before pretending to fall while Mina caught him. Yet only responds when it's Todoroki or Midoriya. Shinsu blushed and glared at the two, while Takoyami ignored them and dragged Izuku over to look at some curtains. Oh, does my son have crushes? Shut up. Shinsu shoved Present Mike, who just kept poking at him, trying to get the teen to tell him about the crushes. What about these ones? Izuku pulled on some blackout curtains that had feather-like designs on them. These would be cool. Dark Shadow. The creature appeared. What do you think? I like them. Midoriya has good taste. Thanks, Dark Shadow. Why do you think Mito Bro put us in a group? Probably cause me and Sugar High are the only ones who can actually fucking cook. I was not aware you could cook, young Bakugo. Who taught you? All Might asked, wanting to get closer to the students now that he had the time. My fucking dad and Aunt Inko. Aunt Inko? All Might asked, a little confused. Kyoka was quick to inform him. Izuku's mom. She made sure all 3 of us had the basics before she I understand, young Gyro. Thank you for telling me. I'm sure she was an amazing cook. She was the fucking best besides me, obviously. Katsuki looked at some of the utensils. While Yua had supplied them with the basics, the blonde had a specific brand he liked. Hey, what shit do you use? Just the normal stuff. I'm fine with what the school provided. Sato assured. But the others knew it was a lost cause. Not what I fucking asked. Pick out what you want, I'm not asking twice. Katsuki shoved his own things into the cart Kirishima was wheeling around, while Sato was a little more gentle in putting things in Momo's cart. Shouto, shouto, shouto. We have to get this. Uraraka was bouncing up and down as she held a mini-fridge. What is it? A mini-fridge. We should buy one for everyone in different colors. Hell yeah. Midnight watched Uraraka drag Shoji and Siro to help her pick them all out. She figured they would need a moving truck by the end of the day. How much are we wasting? Sue asked, Looking at the strange list Shouto had, there seemed to be a lot of hero merch, random cat-themed things, and even custom ballet shoes. All of it. Todoroki, why are you wasting your father's money? The two turned to Midnight as surprised. I thought Aizawa-sensei told you since you might be fostering me. She froze a little. Well, he asked me about it, and you're a good kid, and I've always wanted to adopt. The two nodded along, but he said you would tell me. Otsu, I need my PR team. Endeavors of flaming child-abusing garbage, can that deserves nothing, Kiro. I've always wanted custom jewelry. We should get matching sets for our group. Todoroki was quick to jump onto the idea, already looking for a jeweler nearby. Aizawa would forever be thankful he got this group. He loved all of his kid students, but he definitely got the least chaotic group, even if Kaminari was in it. Can I get this? The electric teen was holding a stuffed Pikachu plushie up to Aizawa like a child. Kaminari, I don't see why you're asking me. Can I? Sure. Yeah. He threw it in the cart like he was making a basket in basketball. Aizawa rolled his eyes, but kept pushing the cart, following Ida as he listed off the different things he thought some of the others and himself might need. He knew Hagakure, Koda, and Ojiro were still in the bedding section, picking out the softest sheets and blankets. Ida guiding the other two along since the three were being very picky and taking too long for the other teens' liking. We got him. Hagakure came running over with light pink feathery blankets. Well, I got mine. Koda and Ojiro are still deciding. Go back with them for now. Once you three are done, go through the aisles to make sure we didn't pass anything you wanted. Aye, sensei. Izuku finished organizing all of his things when a knock came. He paused his music and opened the door to Ada, Tsu, and Uraraka. Oh, hey guys, what's up? He moved out of the way and let them in. They all looked around a little, though he didn't think his room looked too different from his own room. He had dark sheets and fluffy blankets with a few stuffed animals on the bed. He had a desk in the corner with his notebooks and a record player for the vinyl he owned, and a dresser in the other corner where he kept his clothes. On the ceiling he had hung up a few string lights with the help of Takoyami along with a few pictures on the walls. Your room looks so comfortable, Uraraka shouted as she jumped onto the bed. Shouto got me a few string lights too. I'll have to hang them up later. You haven't seen the best part. He turned the string lights on before turning the lights off. What color? Blue. He changed the lights and laughed a little when Uraraka looked amazed. Very impressive, Izuku. Ida joined Uraraka on the bed, while Tsu took the chair. Thanks. Though I don't think you guys are here to compliment my lights. He sat on the desk with his legs crossed. So what's up? Right. Uraraka clapped her hands. We wanted to do something nice for Shouto. I'm all for it. But why specifically? He's in Midnight's care now, right, Kiro? Well, I think we should do something to make him feel welcome with her. Izuku hummed. It was a good idea. I like it. But shouldn't Hito be here too? He's distracting Shouto right now. We will be going with Midnight-sensei to assist her, Uda explained. Well then, what are we waiting for? Shinsu looked down at his phone, smiling when he saw texts from the others, saying they were getting ready. Is everything all right? He looked over to Shouto, who had been reading, but was watching him now. Yeah, just a text from the others. He turned his phone off and sat down next to Shouto. They had been relaxing in Shinsu's room since Shouto hadn't finished everything with his room yet. How's everything with Endeavor and Midnight been going? Good actually. The teen had a small smile. He didn't want to turn it into a huge thing, so he signed over pretty easily. The others were really happy about it. Midnight even said that when Mom gets out of the hospital, she could live with us if she wanted. Shinsu smiled and nudged his shoulder. That's pretty great, yeah. So is Aizawa-sensei your actual father? Shinsu paused before looking at him. You both act very similar and even look alike. I haven't ruled out Mike-sensei being your biological father, either, since you both have voice-based quirks. Shouto, you know they aren't my parents. I don't actually. He stood up and grabbed a large whiteboard that Shinsu had somehow missed before. He spun it, showing pictures of their classmates and different heroes. Kaminari suggested, I do this to help me plan out my ideas more. And what ideas are those? I think half of our class is related to pro heroes in some way. Shinsu burst out laughing at that, almost fall off the bed. This is very serious, Hitoshi. I need your opinion on some of these. All right, I'll try my best. So Midnight-sensei, what was your idea? Izuku asked, as they walked around some of the shops. Oh please, you all can call me Kayama while we're out and about like this. She gestured to her sweater and pencil skirt. But my idea was maybe a small party. You five are his best friends, and I've already invited his siblings and mother, if she can come. Welcome party, Uraraka shouted. I have the best idea. Then why don't you take Ida and Sue with you, honey? Midoriya can help me pick out snacks. The three didn't question it, and were quick to run away and get part supplies. Is there something wrong, Miss Kayama? Midnight took a deep breath. I know you and Hitoshi specifically are a lot closer to Shadow than anyone else. Izuku blushed a bit. And I know why, Tilda, but I'm not here to tease or give a shovel talk. Nothing like that. I just need your opinion on something. Oh, of course. I'm not trying to replace his mother. But there are some things I want to do with, and for him. I just don't know if I'll be overstepping. Izuku smiled a bit. He remembered when Mitsuki and Mika had worried about those sort of things after his mother passed. Well, I think it's fine. Show's pretty blunt. He'll tell you if something's wrong, or if he doesn't like something, and for the mom part. You wouldn't replace her, and I think he knows that. There's no reason he can't have more than one mom, or that either of you have to pick and choose what you're allowed to do with him. Midnight let out a sigh. You're a lot better at this than I am, Midoriya. He shrugged a little. I think I get a unique perspective on this stuff. He looked off to the side. When my mom died, Aunt Mitsuki and Mika, Kyoka's mom, they were both worried about overstepping. They didn't want to replace her or make me feel like I needed to move on, but my teacher Haku, she was there. She didn't care about anything other than that I was taking care of myself. She wasn't worried about overstepping because she trusted me to say something. Then Aunt Mitsuki and Mika picked up on that, and it felt so much better because I had adults there for me. Oh honey, Midnight grabbed his face. You are so adorable, he laughed, pushing her hands away, though it was all playful. Thank you, Miss Kayama. But seriously, I think you're doing amazing for all it's worth. Maybe you should ask Aizawa-sensei or Mike-sensei. They might be a little more help. I think you helped me enough, Midoriya, she thought for a moment. Maybe I should have a sit-down with Rei and Shadow. That could help. For sure. I bet they would both appreciate it. Wait, so you think Madabro is related to the hero Maruko? Somehow Kirishima, Katsuki, Shiro, Denki, Mina, Kyoka, and Momo had joined them, and were giving their own input on Shadow's wild theories. Wouldn't his internship be weird then? Perhaps. But if they planned it as a family outing, it could work. I chose my own sperm donor to better my control over my flames. It would make sense for him to choose his secret mother. Except we've, Katsuki gestured to himself and Kyoka, met Auntie Inko. I thought about that and came up with this. He spun the board to the previously empty side and began writing things down quickly. Miss Inko and Maruko were in a secret relationship. They had to keep it hidden because if the number 6 hero had a family, they would be targeted. Later they wanted kids, so they took a donor. Shadow cut himself off. You good there, man? Wait. He erased it and started over. Yes to everything I just said. But the donor. He nodded to himself. With quirks, there's a wide range of possibilities. There could be someone out there with the specific talents to combine two people's DNA of two people. So with Maruko's quirk, it made his body more. How do I describe this? Since her quirk is a physical one that gives her the power to perform more impossible stunts, his body took on those aspects, which explains why he's so athletic and active. How much are you thinking about Midoriya's body? Mina asked with a smirk. The normal amount? I think the normal amount is 0. Shadow blushed a little. Then more than average, not the point. He hit the board. The point is that Maruko is secretly Izuku's other mother. Is it bad he kinda convinced me? Denki asked, tilting his head to the side. Yes, dumbass. I don't know Katsuki, she could be. Momo laughed at Kyoka, who only shrugged. None of us knew Izuku's dad. Could just be another mom. Better fucking not be. I told you he was homophobic. I'm not fucking homophobic. Looks like we got everything. Midnight clapped her hands. All right, I'll keep everything at my house. I'm thinking next week for the party. I'm so excited. I never really went to parties until Yuraraka was floating, causing Ida to hold onto her ankle so she wouldn't float away. Wonderful idea, Miss Kayama. Let us know if you need any help. Ida bowed, dragging Yuraraka down and almost hitting Tsu, who had grabbed Izuku to dodge the two. Midnight was starting to see why Aizawa called them the problem children group. She couldn't imagine them with the rest of their group and the Baka squad. When they got back to the dorms and walked in, the first thing that happened was Shadow grabbed Izuku and shaking him slightly. Is Maruko secretly your other mother, and your internship was a way to bond and spend time together? What? No. Shadow sighed and waved to Kaminari, who nodded and erased the whiteboard that was downstairs. Why is there a whiteboard? Because half and half is fucking crazy. The others nodded along in understanding, while Izuku still looked confused. Don't ask. It's better not to know. Izuku would trust Shinsu's judgment on that one. Shadow sat in his room trying to do his work, but it seemed impossible. He knew later that day that Midnight was throwing a party as a celebration for getting adopted by the hero, hoping to welcome him into her home. He already felt pretty welcome. She was nice, insisted that he could call her whatever he wanted, and even stopped by after school to check up on him. So he didn't really see the need for a party, but Yuraraka had told him to just have fun with it. Standing up, he put his things away before leaving and going to Uraraka's room. He didn't bother knocking since the door wasn't locked, and walked into the room calmly. Hey Shadow. Uraraka and Sue were both sitting on the bed, painting each other's nails. What's up? Are you feeling alright, Kiro? He sat on the office chair, he bought her with a sigh. I know you said to have fun with the party that my other mother. The two girls just shrugged, that she's throwing me. But I'm not exactly sure how to have fun with it. I've never done parties except for the ones at the dance studio. Uraraka paused in her nail painting. Come sit up here with us, Shadow. He carefully got on the bed, making sure he didn't accidentally knock over their nail polish. All right. What do you think is missing from the party? Nothing. You all will be there. So will my siblings and even my mother. Mothers, food, drinks. I don't see anything that will be missing. Is something missing from you then? Sue asked, leaning around Uraraka to look at Shadow. You seem fine with the party. Might be something else. He thought about it for a moment, fiddling with Uraraka's blanket while the girls let him think it over. He blushed a bit and turned away. I want to be with Hitoshi and Izuku. Yes. Uraraka spun around and grabbed him by his shoulders. Shadow. Ask them on a date. Right now? Yes, right now. You guys can go on a romantic outing, and then at the party you can introduce them to your family. It'll be so cute. He looked at Sue, who nodded. I agree. You three have, literally, been dancing around each other ever since we had that week at the dojo. Kiro, there's no reason you shouldn't ask them now. Do you know where they are? Oh, Izuku and Tenya are training, but Hitoshi should be in his room. Shinsu flipped the page of his book with a groan. He hadn't wanted to do much since they had the party later, and he didn't want to be emotionally drained before he even left the dorms. But he was regretting it now out of boredom. Hitoshi? Shadow walked into the room calmly. At some point they had all agreed to just ignore the doors and walk in, unless they were locked. Are you busy? Nope. Thank God you came, though I was getting bored. He sat up in bed and patted the spot in front of him. What's up? Excited for the party? Something like that. I was actually coming here to ask you something. Shoot. Shadow stared at him for a moment before his face got slightly pink. He looked down slightly, trying to avoid Shinsu's eyes. Well, he clasped his hands together. I was talking with Ochako and Sue. Always a bad idea, though Izuku and Ochako is worse unsupervised. That got a small smile out of the ice user. And Hitoshi, he finally looked back up, seeming more confident. I have liked you and Izuku for a long time, and I know you at least like Izuku too. So I was wondering if I could take you on a date, and then introduce you to my family at the party. Oh, Shinsu sat there frozen for a second. Why, you know I like you too, right? Like romantically. I wasn't aware. Really? Because I was kinda obvious about it. Shadow only shrugged, still looking a little embarrassed. But yeah, I would love to go on a date with you, Shadow. Good. That's good, Izuku too, right? Oh, for sure, we are totally dragging him with us. Good. Good training today, Izuku. You have become stronger. Izuku laughed a little as Ida tossed a towel to him. Thanks, Tenya. You've definitely gotten faster. Watch for your left side, though you left it open a lot. Of course, Dragon-sensei. Izuku picked up a water bottle and threw it at Ida, who was laughing. Don't you start, Tenya. He turned back to the front, seeing Shadow and Shinsu walking in. Oh, hey guys, what's up? Getting some training in before the party? Not exactly. Shinsu looked to Ida, who nodded and gathered his things. There was something we wanted to ask you. Ask away. You like us, correct? Well, yeah, you guys are some of my best friends. I mean romantically, Izuku. Shadow grabbed one of his hands. I like you and Hitoshi romantically, and he reciprocates those feelings. We wondered if you did too. If not, then. And no. Izuku used his free hand to cover his face a bit. I like you guys too. I wasn't expecting you to ask me outright like that though. Shinsu chuckled and grabbed the hand covering his face, making the other crouch down to try and hide his face, though it didn't work very well. Well, Shadow here had the idea to take us on a date, and then introduce us to his family at the party. Really? Izuku sprung back up. I would love to. He looked down and remembered he was in his exercising clothes. I'll go shower and change real quick and meet you two later. Sure. Once they were all ready, they met in the common room and agreed to just walk around the park, so it wouldn't feel awkward. You should have seen the students though. I didn't even know some of them did cheerleading. I for sure saw that Tama guy at some sports ball game. Hitoshi, you know what the sports cow? No idea what you're talking about. Izuku rolled his eyes and shoved the other a little. What about you, Sho? Any sports or anything you're interested in? Not really, he shrugged a little. I've seen a few on TV, but none of them really interested me. I prefer to just watch things. As if to emphasize the point, he looked over the park. For example, I see that woman and her kids here often. They are very nice. You are surprisingly a people person. Shinsu looked around. I never really watched people, usually trying to avoid them. I think it's just the teacher in me that makes me watch people. You are a very good teacher. Did I tell you guys All Might asked me to make him a better teacher? They both looked shocked at that. I know, right? When they were asking us about the dorms, he talked to me privately and apologized for some stuff, and then asked me if I could help him. It was so weird. He's honestly pretty nice though. That's good. I remember Jiro and Bakugo having a strange hate for the man. They spent the rest of their park trip like that, talking about anything that interested them, or they had heard from some of the other students, even finding out things the others didn't know about him. As it got later in the day, they decided to just go straight to Midnight's house and help her set up. Thank you boys for helping, and making sure that Shadow doesn't help. The teen was currently sitting the couch pouting slightly as he watched the other three work around the house. No problem, Miss Kayama. Is there a reason you three were out at the park though? She was wiggling her eyebrows, making the other two blush. I asked them on a date. I think we're all currently dating. Yes, Sho, Izuku assured. He asked us so we could go on a date, and then he could introduce us to his family. Ah, aren't you three just the sweetest? You want me to keep it on the down low, Hitoshi, so you can tell your fathers? For the love of God, yes. Pops was impossible when we went shopping. I don't need him teasing me anymore or Dad threatening them. Would he threaten us? We've already admitted to committing crimes. Is dating his son that bad? Yes, because he's weird. I think it's sweet. Of course you do. Shinsu rolled his eyes at the teacher, finally finishing hanging everything up before joining Shadow on the couch. Izuku smiled and threw himself across both of their legs, neither reacting since they were used to him or Uraraka doing it constantly. It wasn't long until the other Todorokis arrived, Shadow standing up to hug them all and tell them how school was going before directing them over to Shinsu and Izuku. Mom, Fayumi, Natsuo, these are my boyfriends Izuku Midoriya and Hitoshi Shinsu. Both stood and shook hands with the family. It's great to meet you all. Sho talks about you guys a lot. Natsuo looked at the three for a moment. Didn't you two fight him? He pointed to Izuku, getting a nod from the other two. He's a great fighter. It's how my dads met. I'm simply following in their footsteps. Natsuo laughed and slung an arm around Shinsu's shoulders. Oh, we're gonna get along. Thank you both for treating my son so nicely. Ray gave them both a short hug. You both also seem like such fine young men. We stole a stop sign together. Shadow admitted. Shadow, that's illegal, Fayumi scolded. Only if we get caught. They left his sister to scold him, while Natsuo and Ray kept talking to Izuku and Shinsu about how they all met and became friends. Once everyone else had arrived, and they got to see all of Shadow's classmates interact, Ray couldn't help but smile. What's up, Mom? She looked over the crowd, seeing a blonde yell at her son, though they were both smiling. I'm glad Shadow has friends now.